Chapter 969. 3 days later. Han Fei's net worth reached the richest moment in history. More than 3,500 supreme-grade spiritual weapons, 3.02 million caddies of spiritual spring and more than 23,000 spiritual fruit, and 301 semi-divine weapons were worth a lot. In the end, after deducting 2% commission, there was a total of 4.6 million caddies of spiritual spring left, which was equivalent to 4.6 billion points of spiritual energy, almost 5 billion. There were 47,840 spiritual fruits, which were worth at least 7 billion spiritual energy. During this period, Lu Renkuang also sent over the resources he collected. However, compared with Han Fei's current net worth, it was nothing. At this moment, the number of spiritual fruits on Han Fei had reached 55,000. As for low-quality and mid-quality divine weapons, Han Fei certainly wouldn't sell them. At this moment, money no longer mattered. These divine weapons needed to be refined into a blood-drinking saber, a seal, a fishing rod, and a staff. The chances of it being forged into a high-grade divine weapon should not be high. Coincidentally, he had 2 supreme-grade divine armaments and 3 medial-grade divine armaments. It should not be a problem for him to combine the 3 medial-grade divine armaments into a high-grade divine armament. The Empyrean Waterfall. When Han Fei opened the mist array at home, he couldn't help but sigh. The power of the demon purification pot is not enough to make an ultra-quality divine weapon? Looks like I'll have to wait until I get the 3rd vine. Han Fei intended to refine an ultra-quality divine weapon. However, he soon discovered a problem. It consumed a lot of spiritual energy, but the progress of the supreme-grade divine weapon was extremely slow. If he wanted to forcibly refine it, he would need a huge amount of spiritual energy. Although he didn't lack spirit chi now, it wasn't necessary. Even if he refined a supreme-grade divine weapon, he wouldn't be able to unleash his full strength. As for a mid-quality divine weapon, according to his cultivation speed, he should be able to exert its full power after becoming a peak-level hidden fisher or a law enforcer. Therefore, the 2 ultra-quality divine weapons were still lying in Forge the Universe. As for the 3 mid-grade divine weapons, he refined a blood-imbibing saber, a golden seal, and a dragon rod. Han Fei felt that naming was too troublesome. He couldn't just change the name every time his equipment leveled up, right? Therefore, it was better to continue using it. As for the fishing rod, it was called the Dragon Burial Rod. Han Fei thought it was a good name and could use it in the future. 3 months later. By the pool of the Empyrean Waterfall, a man and a cat sat on a rock, fishing. Between the man and the cat, there were 2 plates of fruits on a rock. There were even rare fruits like pineapples. Baji. While pulling the fishing rod, Han Fei ate the pineapple and said, "Big Yellow, if you continue to cause trouble like this, there won't be enough cats." Baji. Big Yellow bit off half of the pineapple and said gloomily, "I only wanted to give birth, but they died. Am I destined to be lonely for the rest of my life?" Han Fei sighed. "So, you might be the unique cat." Crash! A red blood butterfly fish was pulled up by Big Yellow. Big Yellow stabbed it to death with its paw. After killing the red blood butterfly fish, Big Yellow did not eat it but looked at Han Fei. "Why didn't you catch any?" Han Fei said casually, "I didn't catch any fish. The red blood butterfly fish are mediocre." Big Yellow said, "Your strength doesn't seem to have changed." Han Fei smiled. "I'm digesting it." Big Yellow asked, "Will it take so long?" Han Fei sneered. "Long? Look at yourself. How dare you say it's long? It'll take me at most 3 months. Yes, the price to pay for the improvement of strength was not small, mainly because after eating the so-called source water, Han Fei temporarily changed his path of advancement from pain mode to hell mode. Now his physique was too strong. He had been grinding for 3 months, but he couldn't even break through the small barrier. Of course, this was only temporary. When Han Fei completely broke in, the path of advancement would open. Before going to the Thousand-Star City, it shouldn't be a problem for him to become a law enforcer. However, during this period of time it was really too boring. Luo Xiaobai and the others were different from him. They had their own path. If they didn't work hard, they might not be able to keep up with him. And Han Fei seemed to have really become the kind of genius that was hard to come by in 100 years or even in 1,000 years. He couldn't guarantee it in other places, but here, he was already a genius. If he hadn't obtained the source water, he wouldn't have been so strong. But now, no one was willing to fight Wu Ming and the others. The reason was that Han Fei was very strong. If he didn't use a secret method, he wouldn't be able to beat the other party with all his strength. If he used a secret method, the other party would just give up because he couldn't fight anymore. Besides, the changes brought about by the source water and the growth of strength were slightly different. For example, the agility of wind performed by the phantom glass wings changed from the original speed of 3 times to the current speed of 4 times. The 10 times explosive power of devil change became 8 times explosive power. It seemed that with the strengthening of his physique, the effect of devil change had also weakened correspondingly. In this case, Han Fei tried to fight with a junior peak-level law enforcer. As long as the other party's power of law couldn't suppress him, there was no way he could win. For a time, Han Fei felt that he had no pursuit and could only wait for a breakthrough. "Human, you haven't exchanged things with me for a long time." The big turtle's voice sounded in Han Fei's mind. Han Fei thought to himself, "What can you give me now? I have more than 80,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid. Now Little Fatty and the others are also settling down, and I don't even have a chance to use it." Besides, Han Fei also confirmed another thing. Spirit awakening fluid had little effect on law enforcers. The reason was that spirit awakening fluid was a law, and law enforcers could enforce the law. The two contradicted each other. If he wanted it, there were a lot of it in the sea-quelling painting. However, the tree spirit said that he couldn't take too much spirit awakening fluid. It had a stabilizing effect. Otherwise, Han Fei could have taken it directly from the sea-quelling painting. So Han Fei said casually, "Senior Turtle, what do you want to exchange for now? 3 months ago there were so many law enforcers. The power of this seal can't suppress you for many years, right? Why are you in such a hurry?" The big turtle was silent for a moment. "I can make it cheaper." Han Fei couldn't help rolling his eyes. "I won't buy it even if it's cheaper." He couldn't help saying, "Senior, we have nothing to do anyway. Let's chat. Where does the spring under you lead to?" The big turtle was silent and didn't speak. Han Fei looked around and said via voice transmission, "Senior, to be honest, I don't need the spirit awakening fluid at all. Besides, when you come out, the big hole under you will show up sooner or later. Why don't you tell me now? I'll go to the outer sea immediately, find a nest of sea demons, destroy it, and grab some demonic stones for you. What do you think?" The big turtle said leisurely, "Actually, it's not as complicated as you think." Han Fei said carelessly, "It's not complicated. Just tell me." Maybe it was because Han Fei often came to fish to kill time, or maybe it was because the big turtle knew that he was not far away from unsealing, but he didn't expect it to tell him. The big turtle said, "Actually, what I'm holding is the broken corpse of a deep-sea giant demon." Humph! Suddenly, someone snorted in the air, and the big turtle was speechless. And Han Fei was shocked. What did it mean? Deep-sea giant demon? Han Fei counted with his fingers. The sea spirit realm, breaking the spirit realm, seeking the way, entering the way to be venerable. F***ck. The corpse of a king realm giant demon? Han Fei was enlightened and instantly understood why the sea demons attacked the Scattered Stars Island. Why did human beings defend the Scattered Stars Island? Who knew if the corpse of a king-level powerhouse could be created? If the sea demons got this corpse, what if someone became a king-level powerhouse with its broken body? How could the 1,000-star city resist them? A voice came from the air straight to the bottom of the pool. Old Turtle, don't think that this kid will be your opportunity. Han Fei didn't know the conversation between Shueishenqi and the Old Turtle. On the surface of the pool, Shueishenqi's phantom appeared. In 3 months, I don't care what you do, but you can't stay on the Scattered Stars Island. Han Fei was stunned. Huh? Why? Shueishenqi said indifferently, the day when the Old Turtle's seal is unsealed is the day when human beings and sea demons fight. There are still 8 years left. Your father expects you to become a king. Do you really think it's so easy? Even the sea demons know that you can find a way to cross the barrier of the Explorer realm, but what about the Venerable realm? What is Tao? Have you ever thought about it? Han Fei narrowed his eyes. To become an explorer, he had to go to the Waterwood Sky. It didn't seem easy to become a Venerable. 8 years seemed a bit short. But why 8 years? Shueishenqi continued, if you want to become a king, you must participate in the battle 8 years later. Han Fei didn't care about this. If he wanted to become a king, maybe he would have to gain the recognition of many people. With the big clans of the 1,000-star city pushing him, it would be hard for him not to participate in the battle. However, he asked, since this matter is so important, why let everyone become a law enforcer here and shorten the time for the Old Turtle to come out? If we let Senior Turtle out in advance, won't we start the battle ahead of time? Shueishenqi said with a cold face, there are some things you don't understand. Do you think the king-level corpse is so simple? It's a corpse full of Tao, which can derive countless spirit awakening fluid. Otherwise, where do you think the undersea chimney came from? Do you really think the Old Turtle wants resources to come out? Han Fei's heart trembled. What does he mean? The Old Turtle wants resources not to come out, but to suppress the entrance of the cave? Han Fei quickly shook his head and said, didn't they say that only when one becomes a law enforcer will Senior Turtle come out in advance? It was said that it could take decades, but now it has become 8 years. Isn't it because he became a law enforcer? Shueishenqi looked at Han Fei seriously. If you hadn't obtained the opportunity to become a king, I wouldn't have told you this. What you said is just what was announced to the outside world. In fact, this is not the case. It's not that becoming a law enforcer will make the Old Turtle come out in advance, but that becoming a law enforcer can absorb some Tao, which can reduce the pressure on the Old Turtle and let it stay longer. Wow! Han Fei was dumbfounded. So, everyone was kept in the dark? In fact, Shueishenqi and the Old Turtle were lying to him. Han Fei suddenly stood up. Then, if everyone hadn't become a law enforcer 3 months ago, how long could Senior Turtle have lasted? Shueishenqi's expression remained unchanged. 3 years. Han Fei. Chapter 970. Han Fei was shocked when Shueishenqi explained it to him in person. What he meant was that without collective law enforcement, the real full-scale war between humans and sea demons would break out in 3 years. At this moment, Han Fei seemed to understand something. He suddenly asked, can the bottomless pit in the transverse mountain really collect spirit awakening fluid? Shueishenqi said lightly, very little. Han Fei realized that most of the spirit awakening fluid of the logistics division of the Scattered Stars Island probably came from the Old Turtle. Han Fei wondered, in this case, why doesn't the spirit awakening fluid be sold at a lower price? Shueishenqi grinned and said, the spirit awakening fluid is not only the key, but also of little use even if we sell it now. Shueishenqi said leisurely, the reason why a full-scale war hasn't broken out now is that the king's body has not been completely melted. This is what we've been suppressing. Once the king's body is melted, a great Tao will appear and may collapse at any time. This is also the reason why the sea demons must get this corpse. It does represent an opportunity to become a king. However, this opportunity is not ours. Han Fei took a deep breath and said, is it about to start melting now? Shueishenqi nodded slightly. Yes. Han Fei took a deep breath again. What should I do? Shueshenqi said, the old turtle needs to consume energy. You can grab some demonic stones, energy, and the like. Ownerless souls are also okay, but I don't think you can get them. Han Fei asked, then should I go to sea now? Han Fei had a hunch that if he wanted to become a king, he had to pay more attention to the old turtle. It was like how he got the power of faith from those people in the sea-quelling painting. A full-scale war was naturally not good for many people. However, it might also be an opportunity for him. Shueshenqi shook his head slightly. These things are not urgent, but it's better than nothing. Even if you bring a mountain of demonic stones, it can only last for another 2 years. It's meaningful, but not very meaningful. Now, what you need to figure out is what you should do. From the moment you got the sea-quelling painting, you have been obliged to pay for this unconditionally. Because, in a sense, you are the one who is most likely to become a king. Han Fei swallowed. I'm just a hidden fisher. What can I do? Shueshenqi said indifferently, this matter is related to you. Destroying the sea demons and cleaning up the 10,000 Demon Valley is also related to you. However, you don't have the ability to do it now. So, we will help you hold it down. However, some people in the 1,000-star city are already trying to blame you for this. Now that I'm telling you all this, from another perspective, I'm helping them. Han Fei remembered what old Han said. Those big clans in the 1,000-star city couldn't kill him openly, so they threw such a big thing to him. If this was done, it was only natural. If he didn't do it well, they might put all the blame on him and make him the scapegoat. Moreover, he was the biggest scapegoat in history. Han Fei didn't feel good at all. This is so tricky. Shueshenqi's phantom disappeared. Han Fei sat down on the stone. Not in the mood to fish anymore, he put away the fishing rod and sat cross-legged on the stone. What should I do now? After confirming that Shueshenqi had left, Big Yellow turned from a dead cat to a living cat and asked quietly, Han Fei, what did you say? Han Fei waved his hand and sighed. This is the sadness of humans. You cats don't understand. Big Yellow. Han Fei knew that when he got used to the opportunities he would definitely go to sea. Therefore, going to sea to find demonic stones was not an important thing. In other words, there were still 3 months before he went to sea. He couldn't accompany a cat fishing every day, could he? Han Fei immediately fell into deep thought. If he were a king and wanted to lead many people to fight a war, how would he fight? In order to win the war, how could he do it? The first was to launch a sneak attack and kill the other party first by using trickery. But this method was problematic. The 10,000 Demon Valley was similar to the Scattered Stars Island. There were hundreds of thousands of half-mermaids, hundreds of thousands of red demons, and countless inferior manfish. In this kind of war, it was useless to sneak around. The second one was to improve the strength of his own people. This one was more feasible. However, on the path of cultivation, if he wanted to become stronger quickly, he needed resources, a lot of resources, a huge amount of resources. But how could he get resources alone? How long was this going to take? In this case, it was a good thing that he lowered the market price of ultra-quality spiritual weapons to 50%. Suddenly, Han Fei froze. Yes. It was useless to do small things, and he couldn't get many resources. Why not start with equipment? As for equipment, one was something like the Refining Divine Platform, which would solve everything once and for all. The other was to increase the number of refining masters. Han Fei got up. Big Yellow, you can go fishing by yourself in the future. I'm going to work. Meow. Before Big Yellow spoke, Han Fei flew out with a swish and went straight to the Scattered Stars' 7th unit. The Scattered Stars' 4th unit. A group of a dozen people was resting and making a bunch of drink. At this moment, they were chatting. At the same time, these people were also studying the style of clothes and how to make them look good. Someone laughed and said, now that the ancient battlefield is open, the pressure on us has been greatly reduced. Finally, we don't have to refine weapons all day long. Slurp. Mu Jiao hiccuped. I heard that the swindler made a lot of money. He robbed more than 3,000 ultra-quality spiritual weapons and more than 300 semi-divine weapons. Now, he is the richest one. Xie Qingqing smiled. Then why don't you marry him? Isn't it good to be a little rich woman? Mu Jiao blushed and was furious. My family is richer than him. My family is rich. Gu Nan laughed. Mu Jiao, then tell me who you like. Or Qingyan is good. He's handsome. Mu Jiao snorted. He's wooden, cold, and only knows how to refine weapons. Huh, where is he? Someone laughed and said, Isn't your question obvious? What else does Qingyan do besides studying those refining devices? Suddenly, Han Fei appeared at the entrance. Liar, why are you here? Han Fei glanced around and saw a large group of people drinking here. He couldn't help but be surprised. Why aren't you refining? Are you so free now? Xie Qingqing smiled and said, Thanks to the opening of the ancient battlefield. Now, a large number of ultra-quality spiritual weapons have just been digested. We need to wait until we have some funds. I guess we'll be busy again in a month or so. Gu Nan said, however, we won't be as busy as before. I heard that many hidden fishers dug ultra-quality spiritual weapons from the ancient battlefield and brought them back. Our pressure will be reduced. Suddenly, someone said, Han Fei, why do you want to return to the Scattered Stars 4th unit? Are you going to treat us to a meal because you've made a fortune? Han Fei thought to himself, why would I treat you? Han Fei skipped the question and asked, Jiao, have you finished studying my refining device? Mu Jiao was speechless. How long has it been? I heard from Guan Shui that you've only figured out half of the array combinations. It will take at least a few months for you to solve them. Finally, you have to build that platform. Then, you have to experiment. It's still early. Han Fei was speechless. Then why are you still drinking here? Where is old Guan? Mu Jiao said angrily, It's better than you not coming at all. All you know is to slack off, lazy bum. Han Fei scratched his nose. I've been bored recently, haven't I? I'm here to share some of the pressure for everyone. I'm going to live here in the future. What? Did I hear you right? You're going to share the pressure for us? Everyone was shocked. Han Fei said he was going to share the pressure for everyone? Immediately, someone yelled, Han Fei! I still have 100 quests. Do you want them? Someone sighed. I have some too. How about I give them to you? Han Fei rolled his eyes. I'm not helping you with refining. I'm here to build a platform. Forget it. You won't understand me anyway. Where is old Guan? I'm here for old Guan. Mu Jiao pointed inside and said, In the innermost refining room. Then, Mu Jiao followed him and said in a low voice, Liar, have you been stimulated recently? I heard something. Han Fei said angrily, How can I be stimulated? I'm just here to contribute to mankind. Mu Jiao, after Han Fei entered Guan Qingyan's refining room, he was a little stunned. Is this still a refining room? This is the workshop of a mad scientist. Guan Qingyan was sitting on the ground, with a pile of books next to him and a pile of messy materials in front of him. Seeing that someone came in, he kicked them out without even raising his head. Jiao, go out and play by yourself. I'm busy. Mu Jiao. Han Fei couldn't help but smile. Old Guan, you're really working hard. Hearing Han Fei's voice, Guan Qingyan immediately raised his head and said with a glint in his eyes, Brother Han? Why are you here? Han Fei said with a smile, I'm here to help you build a platform. Guan Qingyan was obviously stunned for a moment and said in disbelief, Are you sure? Han Fei patted his chest and said, I'm sure. If I can't build a platform, I'll live here. Immediately, Guan Qingyan stood up. Very good, Brother Han, come here. There are still many things I don't understand. Here, and here. Mu Jiao was speechless. The two of them talked about such boring things as soon as they met. How boring! She immediately stomped her feet. Fine, you two can spend it together. Chapter 971. Just like this, Han Fei lived in the Scattered Stars' fourth unit. For 3 days in a row, he was focused on discussing and studying with Guan Qinyan. Therefore, Han Fei directly shocked Bei Hua and the others, wondering if Han Fei had changed his personality. At this moment, in the refining room, Guan Qinyan had learned a lot in the past few days and had long regarded Han Fei as his confidant. At this moment, he was sorting out the principles of this refining platform that he had figured out. However, Han Fei always called it a refining furnace. In this way, it could be distinguished from the refining divine platform. Otherwise, what if someone suspected him in the future? At this moment, Han Fei had long stopped studying with Guan Qinyan. He found that the biggest problem was the combination of arrays. Although he had described the effect that should be achieved after the combination of arrays. However, it was extremely difficult to achieve this effect. And on the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei felt that even the most brilliant array masters could hardly surpass Old Jiang. At this moment, after Old Jiang left, Han Fei felt that he might as well do it in person. Therefore, the ocean book that Han Fei hadn't studied was put on the agenda. Among the arrays, the most commonly used were killing arrays, defensive arrays, and some auxiliary arrays, such as breath concealment, spirit gathering, puzzle, soundproof, etc. In fact, the creation of arrays was fundamentally based on need. No matter what kind of needs, as long as one persisted in studying them, one could always create corresponding arrays. For example, when Han Fei drew crayfish for the first time on the 4th level of the Scattered Stars prison, he drew thousands of arrays, only to cause an explosion. In fact, it was also an innovative array. At this moment, Han Fei sat cross-legged, and in his mind, the lines in the ocean book were unraveled one by one. Because it was just a simulation, Han Fei wouldn't suffer any substantial attacks. This was the power of the Demon Purification Pot. The Demon Purification Pot had completely memorized the complicated ocean book after reading it once. Furthermore, he was able to record every single formation through the lines. A killing array? No, not what I want. A maze array. This maze array is a bit interesting. It's a bit like a strange array, but it has nothing to do with refining. An extension of the spirit gathering array to gather the essence of water? Wow, this array is good. In the future, when I explode the infinity water, I can use it to quickly restore the infinity water. After studying for 2 days, Han Fei had studied about 1/10 of the ocean book array. He had a general understanding of the situation. But do you want to use it as you please? But it was definitely not a simple matter. This really needed time to accumulate. In short, practice makes perfect. Otherwise, it would be just like how he could barely write an extremely rare character. It would definitely not look good, and he would not be able to draw it out in one stroke. When Han Fei opened his eyes, Guan Qinyan glanced at him. "Brother Han, have you made any progress?" Han Fei shook his head. "Don't panic. Haste makes waste. I estimate that it will take another month." Guan Qinyan nodded slightly. Of course it takes time. He had studied it for a long time and knew how difficult it was. Although it was Han Fei who proposed the concept of this refining furnace. However, it didn't mean that Han Fei could do it easily. Otherwise, with Han Fei's greedy character, he would have taken out the refining furnace and asked for resources. Han Fei rose. "Old Guan. One had to strike a balance between work and rest. Do you want some fruit?" Guan Qinyan shook his head. Han Fei shrugged helplessly. "Scientists are so boring." So, Han Fei picked out a pineapple, a few peaches, a few loquats, and a bunch of mulberries from Forge the Universe. At the same time, he made a cup of sea bamboo drink for himself and began to eat and drink it. Just as he ate a peach and a loquat, he saw Mujir and Bei Hua come in. Seeing that Han Fei was eating, Mujir exclaimed, "Wow! Are you secretly eating delicious food? Han Fei rolled his eyes. Can I eat my own food? With that, Han Fei grabbed a peach and threw it to Beihua. The latter didn't hesitate to take it. After taking it, he took a bite and said it was not bad. As for Mu Jie, she had already sat opposite Han Fei, picked up an orange-yellow loquat, and took a bite. She didn't doubt Han Fei's taste in food at all. In this regard, Han Fei was a professional. Among the people Mu Jie knew, Han Fei was the best eater. Besides, what he ate was delicious food. Mu Jie stuffed her mouth and asked, "What is this?" Han Fei said casually, "It's just a low-level spiritual fruit. Tastes good, but it doesn't have any practical effect." Beihua smiled. "Han Fei, how's your research going?" Han Fei spat out the peach pit in his mouth, and picked up a bunch of mulberries. "It's not bad. I should be able to try it in a month." All of a sudden, Beihua and Guan Qingyan's eyes lit up. Even Mu Jie looked at Han Fei in surprise after eating the fruit. So fast. Beihua was a little surprised. Did Han Fei mean that many problems could be solved? Guan Qingyan was also stunned for a long time. "Didn't you just say that more haste, less speed? You said that there would only be progress in a month. How come you can try it in a month?" However, Guan Qingyan didn't know that for people like Han Fei, the concept of time was still stuck in the idea that a year was a long time. Han Fei didn't even realize that a hidden fisher could live for hundreds of years. Therefore, a month was already a long time in Han Fei's eyes. If he hadn't been so free, he wouldn't have spent a month on research. Beihua immediately said, "Okay, nobody will disturb you during this time. Jie, you'd better stay and study hard." Got it, got it. 20 days passed. Han Fei finally finished reading the Ocean Book. He didn't know how significant the Ocean Book was until this moment. It was the essence of an era. The thousands of arrays varied in difficulty, and Han Fei felt that it would take him at least 3 years to digest them all. To really master them all, it would probably take 5 years or even longer. But it didn't stop Han Fei from finding as many as 100 arrays from the Ocean Book, which could support him to finish his research on refining furnaces. On the 27th day, Han Fei began to draw. Bam! The refining room exploded. Han Fei, Guan Qingyan, and Mu Jie sat in the messy room with their faces covered in dust, staring at each other. Mu Jie exclaimed, "Why did it explode?" Han Fei scratched his head and said, "Don't panic. Something must have gone wrong. It's not a big problem. An explosion naturally wouldn't cause any special commotion." Beihua had asked them not to be disturbed, so nobody was bothered. Half an hour passed. Bam! An hour passed. Bam! 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 In the Scattered Stars 4th unit, a bunch of people sat gloomily in the living room, sipping their drinks. "Boss Beihua, we can't go on like this. Should we ask them to stop for a while?" "That's right, Boss Beihua. How are we going to refine? Have they already started experiments? Are they in too much of a hurry? Forget it, I'd better go back to the team first." Beihua took a deep look at the innermost refining room and said unhurriedly, "Everybody, go back for now. I'll inform you if anything happens in a few days." Inside the room, Guan Qingyan said, "Brother Han, we don't understand your array at all." Han Fei said, "I have a decomposition diagram. They all correspond to each other." Mu Jie asked, "That's not right. Why is this spirit-gathering array used in this place?" Han Fei said unhurriedly, "It has to be used here. It's used to extract the spiritual energy inside the weapon." Guan Qingyan asked, "Brother Han, what about this? Why does it need a defense array?" Han Fei said, "It's to prevent the furnace from being damaged after long-term use." Beihua craned his head in and listened for a while. He was quite pleased. This was the future of refining. He might as well stop bothering them and let them work on it. He could also visit his old friends. For more than 20 days in a row. How many times had the Scattered Stars 4th unit exploded? Thankfully, every part was protected by corresponding isolation. Otherwise, the other 6 units would have smashed the scattered star's 4th unit. On this day, in front of the 3 of them, there was a fruit platter each. After getting used to Mu Jie and Han Fei's argument, Guan Qinyan became more relaxed and joined in from time to time. At this moment, Guan Qinyan and Mu Jie looked at Han Fei solemnly. Guan Qinyan asked, "Brother Han, are you really going to do it?" Mu Jie asked, "What if this thing explodes?" Han Fei smiled. "We've already blown it up once or twice." Mu Jie took a breath. "Then you do it. Put on a battle suit." In the next moment, Mu Jie armed herself to the teeth. The helmet on her head was put on, and even her eyes were sealed. From now on, she only used her perception. Guan Qinyan also put on a battle suit, his face tense. And Han Fei grabbed a large number of semi-divine weapon materials and began to smelt them. This time, he was going to make a refining furnace. This was not as simple as making an ultra-quality spiritual weapon or a semi-divine weapon. This was a refining furnace with more than 300 processes and multiple parts. Pieces of parts were refined by Han Fei one by one. On average, one piece was made in 30 minutes. Guan Qinyan and Mu Jie's eyelids twitched at his refining speed. Of course, they were watching with their perception. This is F*King too fast, the two thought. For a full 6 hours, Han Fei didn't stop. And Mu Jie's and Guan Qinyan's hearts almost jumped out, because a large independent refining furnace was being assembled for the final smelting. After a while, Mu Jie looked at this refining furnace in shock. It's done?" Guan Qinyan immediately took a breath and couldn't wait to say, "Brother Han, come on, try it." Before Guan Qinyan and the others said anything, Han Fei had already grabbed a few ultra-quality materials and started to fuse and quench them. After 100 minutes or so, the materials appeared and were poured into the refining furnace. Han Fei was ready to build a long knife. The refining furnace began to run, and the spiritual fire was boiling. Han Fei shouted, "Spirit fusing and quenching are not a problem." In the furnace, spirit refinement was in progress, and Han Fei was watching every step closely and making judgments. 50 minutes was no problem. The fusion began. The preliminary fusion was no problem. The fusion was completed. The spiritual energy extraction was completed. The formation was completed, and there were no changes. When she heard that the array imprinting was completed, Mu Jie jumped up. "Ah, it's done." Han Fei continued, "The second micro-refining begins. Spiritual energy compression completed." Spiritual energy. Suddenly, Han Fei's eyelids twitched. The last step, extracting spiritual energy into the finished product, was stuck. The semi-divine weapon began to become unstable. Han Fei suddenly felt his scalp go numb and shouted, "Defend!" The next second. Rumble, the courtyard on the ground of the scattered star's 7th unit instantly turned into flying ash, and a pillar of fire rose into the sky. Chapter 972. In the pillar of fire, Han Fei's hair was standing on end. Mu Jie, 2,000 meters away from the scattered star's 7th unit, sat on the ground, her mind in a mess. She seemed to be thinking, "Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing?" Guan Qinyan was lying not far from Mu Jie, his head in the grass. Just now, the two of them were thrown out by Han Fei in the pillar of fire. Fortunately, Han Fei reacted in time and prepared the coiled turtle array. Otherwise, these two people would have been seriously injured at this moment. For a time, a large number of people wearing masks emerged from the ground. A group of people stood in the open space, looking at the pillar of fire and looking at each other. Someone was stunned. What did the Scattered Stars 4th unit do? The Scattered Stars 2nd unit, the Alchemy Division, was very aware of the furnace explosion and immediately shouted, "Whose furnace exploded? Why is it so powerful?" The Scattered Stars 6th unit, as a mysterious research division, was responsible for inventions and creations. At this moment, someone was furious. F***ck, my new research was destroyed in an instant. Who? Come out. The Scattered Stars 7th Unit, as a hunting division, were all stunned. Where is the enemy? The Scattered Stars 5th Unit, as well as the Supervision Division, had already begun to look for people. Their first sight was on Mujur and Guan Qinyan. All the members of the Scattered Stars 1st Unit came out. Liang Tian said with a black face, a secret realm collapsed. Who did it? In the sky. A group of law enforcers appeared with a swish. Someone shouted, "What's going on?" Someone scanned with his perception. The one in the pit, come out. Han Fei fluttered out of the pillar of fire, covered in dust. He didn't even wear a mask on his face. The clothes on his upper body had long been blown up. At this moment, seeing a large group of people looking at him, Han Fei chuckled and said, "It's a misunderstanding. We were doing a major research and made a slight mistake." Han Fei? Someone was stunned and immediately recognized Han Fei. A girl blushed. That strong body, that black ash that couldn't hide his body lines, seemed quite attractive. Someone was speechless. You call this a slight mistake? The entire Scattered Stars 7th Unit was blown up by you. You call this a slight mistake? Han Fei underestimated the power of the furnace explosion. Logically speaking, a semi-divine weapon crafting furnace was made of a large number of semi-divine weapon materials. With the same materials, it might be possible to refine dozens of semi-divine weapons. Therefore, the power of the furnace explosion was much more terrifying than the explosion of a semi-divine weapon. Because the crafting furnace was a single entity, if there was a problem in one part, it would cause the spiritual energy and energy to be unable to be released, resulting in a compression. Just like a tire, if it was too inflated, it would easily burst. However, this was much more dangerous than a flat tire. In the distance, Beihua, Wang Su, Li Feiyun, and other big shots were flying close. Didn't they say that they were doing experiments? Why did they destroy the Scattered Stars 7th Unit? Seeing that Beihua had come, someone from the Scattered Stars 7 units asked angrily, "Old Bei, what do you think we should do?" Seeing this scene, Yusu couldn't help but sigh. Han Fei, aren't you refining semi-divine weapons? This power didn't seem like it. It seems to be even more powerful than the explosion of a low-grade divine weapon. Beihua looked at Han Fei. Han Fei, what's wrong? Han Fei put on a new set of clothes and said, "Don't panic. It's not a big problem. Just now, when I was testing the finished product, there was a mistake in one link. I ignored a guiding array. But now it's no problem. Wait, I'll refine another one right away." Hearing that Han Fei was going to continue immediately, someone shouted, "Wait, what are you going to refine? The Scattered Stars 7 units have already disappeared. Why are you still refining?" Someone stepped back. "Wait, let's make it clear first." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "What do you know? I am making a contribution to mankind. Do you know what I am studying? If this thing succeeds, there will be as many semi-divine weapons on the Scattered Stars Island as dogs." "What the hell is a dog?" "That's none of your business. Anyway, I can't stop now. I'm only one step away." Guan Qinyan stood up. "I can prove it." Although Mu Jiar felt a little guilty, she also raised her hand. "I can also prove it." Li Yunfei frowned and said, "Han Fei, are you sure you are almost successful?" Han Fei nodded. "Just now, it was indeed an accident. I missed a step. If you don't believe me, I'll show you now." Immediately, a law enforcer wondered, "Is it very important?" Beihua looked at those law enforcers and nodded. "Very important. It will bring a revolution to the Scattered Stars Island." The law enforcers looked at each other and seemed to communicate. Finally, one of them said, "Han Fei, are you sure you won't make such a big noise again?" Han Fei patted his chest and said, "Of course not. I won't fall into the same trap twice." Immediately, the law enforcer communicated with Beihua and the others, and then said, "Since it is so important and will benefit mankind, You can refine it here. If anything goes wrong, it will be convenient for us to take action. The people of the other 6 units were dumbfounded at this moment. Is it really as exaggerated as they said? Is it really going to benefit mankind? Han Fei stretched out his hand and rolled out a large pile of semi-divine weapon materials from the hole, which was piled up like a hill. Okay, Senior Yu Su. Have you prepared my 5-star refiner certificate? Yu Su smiled. As long as I succeed, I will give it to you immediately. Han Fei chuckled. That's what you said. Wait for me for 12 hours. Suddenly, Han Fei's face tightened, and the materials floated in the air one by one and began to be smelted. Wow! He's refining so fast. Are all refiners refining like this? Being a refiner seems to be more profitable than being an alchemist. If he can refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons, wouldn't he be able to refine them in minutes? Yu Su said leisurely, if this kid can concentrate on refining, his future achievements will be limitless. Beihua didn't speak. He thought to himself, don't say that to me. I can't even beat Han Fei now. What can I do? 12 hours later. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, a strange-looking object that looked like a giant bird's egg appeared in front of them. At this moment, it was covered by spiritual energy and burning. Han Fei took a breath, grabbed a few more ultra-quality materials, and said, okay, I'm going to start. As soon as he said that, the group of people retreated hundreds of meters away. Only the law enforcers and Guan Qinyan were still there. After all, the fruits of their labor were also in it. How could they give up until they saw this thing being made with their own eyes? After a while, Han Fei began to shout in a low voice. The refining in the furnace began. The first 50 seconds were fine. The fusion began. The initial fusion was fine. The fusion was completed. The spiritual energy extraction was completed. The array imprinting was completed. There was no change. The second micro-refining begins. Mu Jiaer couldn't help but take 2 steps back. This was where the furnace exploded just now. Han Fei continued. The spiritual energy compression was completed. The excess spiritual energy was successfully guided. The spiritual energy was sealed and ready to be refined. The moment the furnace was ready to be refined, Guan Qinyan, Mu Jiaer, Beihua, Yu Su, and Li Yunfei all held their breath. Success or failure depended on this. When the spiritual fire in the furnace gradually subsided and disappeared, everyone saw a long knife with a cold light quietly hanging in the furnace. Han Fei suddenly grinned. Success! Swish! Mu Jiaer jumped up excitedly and hung behind Guan Qinyan. The latter didn't seem to notice it, and a smile finally appeared on his cold face. Success! With a swish, Li Yunfei grabbed the semi-divine long knife in his hand and took out a semi-divine weapon with the other hand. Clang! The airwaves shook, but the semi-divine long knife was undamaged. Li Yunfei murmured, really, it's done. Yu Su quickly grabbed the long knife, swallowed, and beamed with joy. It's indeed a semi-divine weapon, ha ha. Yes, it's absolutely right. Beihua laughed. Han Fei, thank you. With that, Beihua quickly stopped smiling and said, Han Fei, do you want to try the other weapons? Han Fei nodded. This crafting furnace was not as simple as refining a semi-divine long saber. The 5 major professions of human beings were hunters, soul warriors, armorists, spirit gatherers, and manipulators. They needed not only weapons but also armor. 4 different professions, weapons were divided into sticks, daggers, knives, swords, and shields. As for longbows, spears, halberds, whips, and the like, there were relatively few people who used them, so they couldn't be completed in one refining furnace. However, if one refining furnace was completed, would the other refining furnaces still be a problem? Immediately, Han Fei tried them one by one. After a while, a semi-divine shield was formed. Mu Jiaer shouted, me too, me too. Han Fei stretched his body and said, you do it. Mu Jiaer's refining speed wasn't that fast. However, this was not a problem. No one dared to make a sound now. They were witnessing a major event, which was much more important than the research of the scattered stars' 6 units. At this moment, the entire scattered stars' 7 units were watching. After a while, a pair of divine daggers was formed. Mujia raised the daggers happily. It's done. The daggers are fine. There are still 2 left. Guan Qinyan, do you want to try them? Guan Qinyan nodded heavily. After another moment, a long sword and a long stick appeared one after another. Guan Qinyan took a heavy breath and finally put on a smile. All 5 weapons have been successfully crafted. There is no danger of furnace explosion. We succeeded. At this moment, Guan Qinyan grinned. He looked up at the sky, very happy, and a huge sense of accomplishment came to his face. Although he was not the leader of this operation, he still couldn't resist the joy of success. The law enforcers also smiled. Immediately, except for one who stayed in place, the others left one after another. They seemed to have gone to spread the news. Beihua laughed. From now on, the era dominated by ultra-quality spiritual weapons is over. Immediately, except for the scattered stars' 7 units, people from the other 6 units walked out one after another. Congratulations! Han Fei, not bad. The furnace explosion this time was worth it. The scattered stars' 4 units are amazing. Yu Su smiled and said, Han Fei, your 5-star refiner certificate will arrive soon. Li Yunfei let out a long sigh of relief. The price of semi-divine weapons must be lowered immediately. Please wait a moment. Let me gather the refiners to discuss the price of semi-divine weapons. With that said, Li Yunfei looked at the 3 of them and said, You 3, prepare to write a book. This book will be spread throughout the 1,000-star city. Chapter 973. The significance of the semi-divine weapon refining furnace was epoch-making, not that the semi-divine weapon itself was epoch-making. For 5-star refiners, if they had enough good materials, it was not difficult to refine a semi-divine weapon. The difficulty was how to refine a semi-divine weapon with the materials of an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. This was the key point. This was epoch-making. This meant that the materials that could be used to refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons could now be used to refine semi-divine weapons. What if this was not a great achievement? Then what should it be called? At this moment, the 3 of them, together with the semi-divine weapon refining furnace, had been moved to the refining hall of the central city. A large group of refiners who had learned the news had already surrounded this place. Li Yunfei said, Everyone, please wait a moment. We'll have a meeting when everyone is here. In the most luxurious refining room of the refining hall of the central city, several people were discussing the naming of this refining furnace. This thing was developed by Guan Qinyan and Mu Jie under Han Fei's leadership. So, the 3 of them naturally had to come up with a name. This was also a rule of the refining hall. Yu Su smiled and said, Don't underestimate the matter of naming. This is a great event that will go down in history. This means that from today on, all the people who use this kind of refining furnace will mention its name every time they mention it. And this name was given by the 3 of you together. Li Yunfei smiled and said, Han Fei, what do you think? Han Fei bared his teeth and said, Is it very important? Beihua smiled and said, It can make you very famous. The entire 1,000-star city may remember your name. Han Fei glanced at Guan Qinyan and Mu Jie. Although Guan Qinyan looked cold every day, he was actually the one who had been studying it the longest. Of course, his contribution was definitely not as great as Han Fei's. As for Mu Jie, although she was joking all day long, the last idea of refining a semi-divine weapon was put forward by her. In this research, she also put forward a lot of suggestions. Before Han Fei spoke, Mu Jie said, Let's call it the 3 heavenly talents refining furnace to represent the 3 of us refining geniuses? Everyone. Han Fei felt that his name was bad enough. He didn't expect that there would be someone even worse than him. Han Fei curled his lip. Then we might as well call it Han Guanmu Refining Furnace. Everyone. Mu Jiaer pouted. Why am I the last? Everyone rolled their eyes. Are you at the front? After a long silence, Guan Qinyan said, Let's give it a name. Han Fei gritted his teeth. How should we name ourselves? Li Feiyun smiled and said, Isn't it simple? Why does the surname come first? How about the Nanyanmu stove? Everyone. Han Fei had no choice. Forget it, old Guan. It's up to you. Mu Jiaer, actually, what do you mean by actually? You eat peaches. Han Fei reached out and stuffed a peach into Mu Jiaer's mouth. It doesn't matter what the name is. Anyway, people will know the three people behind the name. Guan Qinyan said, Listen to Senior Li, call it Faiyanmu stove. Li Yunfei laughed, see? My suggestions are always good. Yu Su and Bei Hua snorted. Just show off. About half an hour later, everyone who was supposed to be there had arrived. At this moment, the refining room was full of people, and everyone's eyes were fixed on the Faiyanmu stove. When they got the news, to be honest, everyone was dumbfounded. They thought that the array mark proposed by Mu Jiaer was already advanced enough. Although it was a bit troublesome, it was enough to refine semi-divine weapons. However, suddenly, someone told them that they didn't have to do anything but throw the materials into a stove, add spiritual energy, and the semi-divine weapon would automatically appear. Who could resist that? How could there be such a good thing in the world? At this moment, someone asked, Master Yunfei, is this the refining furnace that can refine semi-divine weapons? Li Yunfei said, It just got a new name, Faiyanmu stove. This stove was developed by Han Fei, Guan Qinyan, and Mu Jiaer as assistants. Then Li Yunfei smiled and said, I don't want to say anything. Any one of you can come up. You, the tallest one. Come up and operate it yourself. Sun Jia was refreshed. It's my first time operating such a good thing? More importantly, he was only a 3-star refiner. He immediately said nervously, Senior Li, I'm a 3-star refiner. Can I do it? Li Yunfei smiled and said, I just want to choose a 3-star refiner to operate it. If even you can operate it successfully, then this Faiyanmu stove will definitely have no problem and we can start mass production. Li Yunfei was not joking. The materials of semi-divine weapons were very rare, and it was impossible to refine semi-divine weapons with them. However, if he couldn't refine the Faiyanmu stove with these semi-divine materials, he could only throw away the materials that the Scattered Stars Island had accumulated over the years. Sun Jia went on stage to practice. In the crowd, there was another 3-star refiner staring at Han Fei. Han Fei had already noticed him. Who is this uncle? He looks a bit familiar. Han Fei suddenly remembered that when he went to the refining hall for the first time, he paid money to watch others refine weapons. It seemed to be this person. At that time, the other party wanted to teach him, and that person was also shocked at this moment. What kind of monster is this? At the beginning, he wanted to give him some advice. However, seeing that Han Fei was arrogant and said that refining was easy, he immediately lost interest. But now Han Fei was already a 5-star refiner, and he was still a 3-star refiner. Seeing Han Fei looking over, he hurriedly lowered his head, thinking, Don't recognize me. On the field. Sun Jia took a breath and Yu Su said with a smile, Concentrate and refine according to the normal method of refining ultra-quality spiritual weapons. After the spirit refinement, just put all the materials in through this hole. Sun Jia nodded solemnly. Spirit fusion, meticulous, and even a little high concentration. After all, there were so many pairs of eyes watching. One mistake, and he had lost phase. He didn't even know where to put it. Fortunately, everything went smoothly, although it took a little longer. However, there was no problem with Sun Jia's operation. After a while, he poured the materials into the mold. Immediately, the Faiyanmu stove automatically began to operate, and spiritual energy gushed out. The spiritual fire burst out, and the originally dark lines on the stove, when the spiritual fire rose, seemed to be drawing a beautiful picture. About 500 minutes later, when the spiritual fire was extinguished, in the stove, a long sword floated in the air, emitting a cold light. Its quality was by no means comparable to that of ordinary ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Wow! It's done? So simple? Isn't this too simple? F***ck, with this stove, the pattern of human beings will change. Ultra-quality spiritual weapons may become a thing of the past. If everyone is equipped with semi-divine weapons, the strength of human beings will take a big leap forward. Someone shook his head. Don't be too optimistic. First of all, how many stoves can this Fianmu stove be refined? This is a problem. With such a large stove, it must consume a lot of resources. And human beings have a large population. Even if they refine day and night, how can they let everyone hold a semi-divine weapon? I'm afraid it will be a very long-term thing, not something that can be done in a year or two. Li Yunfei said, I know your concerns. This time, I summoned you here just to demonstrate to you how to operate the Fianmu stove. Later, I will go to report to the general in person. Use the top materials of the Scattered Stars Island to make the Fianmu stove as soon as possible. In addition, 3 days later, announce this to the whole city to give everyone a shot in the arm. After the demonstration of the Fianmu stove, except for Han Fei and the other two who were praised, the crowd dispersed. Yusu handed the 5-star refiner certificate to Han Fei and said to Guan Qinyan and Mu Jie, you two can also get a 5-star refiner certificate, but not now, after you forge all the Fianmu stoves. Guan Qinyan nodded. Of course. Mu Jie had no objection. She found that Han Fei was too perverted. Han Fei smiled and said, Senior Yusu, well, I only have a 5-star refiner certificate. Yusu smiled and said, the general said you can go to see him yourself. Han Fei. To be honest, Han Fei didn't want to meet Shueishenqi. Every time he saw him, he would put on a straight face and act like a big shot. Then Yusu added, oh, by the way, the general said that after you forge all the existing materials into the Fianmu stove, you can go to see him and forge all kinds of weapons. Beihua added, you have to write a book. It can't be delayed. Han Fei rolled his eyes. I'm a hero. I've contributed to mankind. How come I've become a robot on the production line now? However, on second thought, as long as I don't die, the entire 1,000-star city will belong to me. I'm also helping myself. Thinking of this, Han Fei immediately felt much more comfortable. 8 years later, many people should be able to get semi-divine weapons, right? 3 days later, Han Fei and the others were building the Fianmu stove in full swing. Mu Jie even directly engraved the words Fianmu stove on the stove, as if she were afraid that others wouldn't know. And on this day, it was also the day when the Fianmu stove was announced to the entire Scattered Stars Island. On this day, the whole island was in an uproar. Many people, after appreciating the Fianmu stove, directly described it as amazing. And Han Fei was given a new name, Father of Semi-Divine Weapons. Chapter 974. Central City. The General's Mansion. Han Fei was looking at a huge map hanging in Shueishenqi's room and couldn't help but exclaim, this sea map even covers the location of the 10,000 Demon Valley. What? Are you interested in the 10,000 Demon Valley? Shueishenqi finished dealing with the official business at hand and looked up at Han Fei. Han Fei came back to his senses. Ah, nothing. I'm just a little curious about the territory of the sea demons. Shueishenqi didn't know whether he was listening or not, so he changed the topic abruptly and looked at Han Fei leisurely. The Fianmu furnace was made in time. This step is quite good, quite similar to the refining divine platform of the sea monsters. Han Fei was slightly shocked and a surprised look appeared on his face. Oh, really? I heard Senior Beihua mention it. However, I think this should be the only way to go on the right path of refining. Really? Without waiting for Han Fei to answer, Shueishenqi said, Your strength should be almost used up, right? Han Fei replied, Almost. Shueishenqi nodded slightly. That's good. After the Scattered Stars' 4th unit's business is over, go to the sea for a year. After that, you can almost go. Han Fei said lightly, After a few years I'll come back. Shueishenqi nodded. If you can come back alive and if you still want to become a king. Han Fei shrugged his shoulders. Okay. However, I have calculated the resources on the Scattered Stars Island. If all of them are used to make the Feiyanmu furnace, we can make about 48 of them. I think there should be more, right? Shueishenqi said lightly, Of course. As for the rest, I will arrange it myself. This time, you will get an 8-star rank. 1 year later, I hope you can get a 9-star rank. Other rewards are meaningless to you. Leave them to others. Okay, go. It was not a big deal that he didn't get any points. Anyway, Han Fei didn't lack those points now. If there was no accident, the value of level 2 soul crystals was far less than before. The only useful thing was the life fruit. However, in the battle of the ancient battlefield, he had accumulated as many as 100 life fruit. Life fruits were no longer attractive to him. As for cultivation methods, he couldn't use them now. He could use this 1 year to temper himself, to prepare for the trip to the 1,000-star city. He didn't know what would happen if he went there. After all, that was the enemy's territory. Inside the club, a party of 4. So, Shueishenqi has a purpose. Since he doesn't want to create more Fengyanmu furnaces, I can deduce that the primordial battlefield has just opened and he still needs this place to train others. Luo Xiaobai shook her head. It's not that simple. Everyone wanted a semi-divine weapon. However, the Scattered Stars Island had a large population, not to mention the 1,000-star city. Just 48 was definitely not enough. Even if a refiner worked day and night, could he refine 20 semi-divine weapons in a day? Even if they could refine 1,000 semi-divine weapons a day, it would take several years to meet the demand of the Scattered Stars Island, which would create a sense of fierce competition. At that time, there might be conditions to obtain a semi-divine weapon. Lu Renquang said, I heard that 480 pieces can be refined in a day. Zhang Xuanyu said, I heard about it too. Luo Xiaobai said, The Scattered Stars Island needs this mechanism. In the beginning, semi-divine weapons certainly can't be popularized. Otherwise, what motivation do the people on the island have? The reason why the marshal prolonged the time should be to prepare for the war that Han Fei said 8 years later. And in the next 8 years we should keep everyone in a state of tension. This is a matter of vision and pattern. Hearing Luo Xiaobai's words, Han Fei immediately understood. When semi-divine weapons were basically popularized, it should be the time when everyone on the Scattered Stars Island was most confident and their combat power would be at its peak. He had to admit that this was a good plan. If it were him, he would definitely want to make all the semi-divine weapons at once. It would be better if each person could have one. Anyway, it's not my own money. Han Fei thought for a moment. How to deal with the sea demons. Shueishenqi's thinking was very clear, which made Han Fei feel less pressure. Han Fei shook his head and said, Let's not talk about this. In a few days my refining book will be finished. At that time I'll give it to the refining hall and we'll go to sea. Zhang Xuanyu immediately said excitedly, Okay. I can't wait. It's time for our strength to improve by leaps and bounds. It's time to go out and fight. Han Fei sighed. In the past half a year, he had been getting used to the power he had gained. Because the power obtained by the source water was too sudden. It was like a catalyst, suddenly catalyzing him to the peak that he could reach now. As a result, his cultivation was useless and he couldn't make any progress. And Zhang Xuanyu and the other two had indeed made rapid progress. They had fought too many times on the ancient battlefield, experienced the underground city, the boneyard, and obtained opportunities. After coming out, Old Han also gave them a wave of opportunities. They didn't lack resources, so it would be strange if they didn't make progress. It was also because of Han Fei's half a year of getting used to that their team stood at the same level for the first time. They were all advanced hidden fishers, and Luo Xiaobai even faintly touched the peak. Of course, in terms of combat power, the three of them should still be inferior to him. However, if he were to take on three of them at once, and he didn't use the void lines, and all four of them used their secret techniques, he reckoned that it would still take a while. 5 days later. On this day, on the roof of the refining hall in the west of the Scattered Stars Island. Ho! A loud roar spread in all directions. Many passers-by and the people from the logistics division looked up and thought, let's see which idiot is shouting on the rooftop. When they looked up, they were surprised to find that it was Han Fei. Under the refining hall, someone shouted at the roof, Master Han Fei, why are you up there? Han Fei laughed and said, everyone, don't miss this opportunity. Today, I, Han Fei, appeal to everyone to consider learning refining. Although everyone already knows that the Fei Yinmu furnace can forge semi-divine weapons. But, everyone, in this world, there is nothing that can be obtained without hard work. The number of semi-divine weapons is limited, but I can tell you that I have improved the refining technique. Perhaps, in the near future, you can also refine your own weapons. At least, it is completely possible to refine ultra-quality spiritual weapons. Now, I have put my works and improved refining techniques in the refining hall for everyone to learn for free. Everyone can take them, everyone can learn them, completely free. Okay, I'm done. Han Fei finished speaking in one breath and flew south on the Wind God boat. He had made an appointment with Luo Xiaobai and the others to gather on the south coast. To the west of the Scattered Stars Island was the direction to the 10,000 Demon Valley. To the north was the direction to the Sea of Pearls. The border between the east and the north also included part of the Sea of Pearls, but not all of it. Now it was mainly the location of the ancient battlefield, and to the south of the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei hadn't set foot on it yet. As for why Han Fei ran to the roof of the refining hall to shout, that was because of Bei Hua and Yu Su. According to Yu Su, with the Fei Yinmu furnace, the price of weapons had dropped a lot. Now that people had hope, fewer and fewer people came to learn refining. And any discipline needed talents to promote it. Therefore, they invited Han Fei to swindle them. However, Yu Su and the others didn't expect that Han Fei would swindle them like this. They didn't know whether it would work or not. Little did they know that after Han Fei left, many people rushed to the refining hall. This scene caught the refining hall off guard. In the distance, Bei Hua and the others were very satisfied. However, the next moment they couldn't laugh anymore. Someone in the crowd said, "Free? Is there such a good thing? It would be a waste not to take it. Let's take it first. Later we can take it home and spread it." Someone laughed and said, Yes, I'll pass it on to my son. When he goes to the level 3 fishery, maybe I can refine 2 ultra-quality spiritual weapons for him if he can't get a semi-divine weapon. Someone sneered. Do you think you can refine it just because you say so? It's very expensive to train a refiner. Someone said disdainfully, practice with ordinary materials first. Ordinary materials are not valuable. Someone agreed. Although you can't refine them even if you learn them, I heard that the spirit fusing technique is heaven level. At least you can learn 3 refining technique. Bei Hua, Yu Su, Li Yunfei. 3 days after Han Fei and the others left the Scattered Stars Island. In the sky, the cloud whale flew over with a roar, carrying a lot of people on its back. The competition of the 36 towns should be held once every 5 years. It had only been a little more than 2 years since the last time. 3 years was almost enough. There shouldn't be a large number of people coming at this time. On the back of the cloud whale, a 4-star hanging fisher said, Let me tell you, You can be said to be the luckiest group of people in the history of the Scattered Stars Island. Do you know? Just half a year ago, humans and sea demons launched a shocking battle of tens of thousands of hidden fishers. We humans killed more than 5,000 sea demons. Senior, what is a sea demon? What is a sea demon? The man said discontentedly, Don't interrupt, listen to me slowly. The 4-star hanging fisher talked for a long time, telling these teenagers about the past of the Scattered Stars Island and the sea demons. The story that seemed like a fantasy caused these youths to be excited, and their hot blood surged. The hanging fisher said, Because of this war, we humans won a chance to breathe. We don't need to be on tenterhooks to prevent the sea demons from attacking us all the time. Besides, Marshal Shue delegated for the first time the sea area within 5,000 kilometers of the Scattered Stars Island is completely open to you. A teenager said, Senior, why is it only 5,000 kilometers? The Level 3 fishery is hundreds of thousands of kilometers long. Isn't this 5,000 kilometers too small? The hanging fisher was so angry that his face tightened. What do you know? Do you know how big the previous limit was? 200 kilometers. You're only 5,000 kilometers, and you don't like it? Do you know what this means? The outer sea area is more than 500 kilometers, and any creature can kill you. Where do you think this is? This is the unknown place. Suddenly, a teenager asked, Senior, do you know Han Fei? The hanging fisher was taken aback, and couldn't help but look up at the starry sky. This is a legendary figure. Someone asked, Who is Han Fei? The hanging fisher smiled and said, He is a madman who broke into the Dark Hunter Legion twice. He is a hanging fisher who wandered alone in the outer sea for a year and survived. He is a strong master who beheaded countless people in the top battlefields of the ancient battlefield. He is a peerless heavenly talent. In more than 60 years, he is the only one who has obtained the legendary Wind God Pearl. He is the only magical refining genius in the entire history of the Thousand-Star City who created a semi-divine weapon with ultra-quality materials. The more the hanging fisher spoke, the more excited he became. In the end, he was so excited that he couldn't control himself. He calmed down a little before continuing, There are too many rumors about Han Fei. When you find the organization, just ask around, and someone will tell you. Okay, that's enough. Next, I'm going to tell you about your star titles, waist tags, and position assignments. In the crowd. He Xiaoyu let out a long sigh. Sure enough, he has risen to prominence. Another couple sighed and looked at each other. It was the same river, the same place, but different people. The Tactical Command Center, the Trans-Island Patrol Team, the Fishers Union, the Dark Hunter Legion, the Logistics Readiness Bureau, the Guard Group, the Law Enforcement Group, the Pioneer Group, the Refining Hall, the Alchemy Union, and many others were welcoming the newcomers. Where is Yang Fei? Where is Yang Fei? Is Su Chen here? He Xiaoyu, who is He Xiaoyu? Come here quickly. Who is Wang Baiyu? Come here, let me have a look at my new teammates. Chu Jinan, Ling Yuan, where are you? Come here quickly. Don't keep me waiting. The Pioneer Group is recruiting. Those with 2 stars can give up their sideline and follow us. You guys won't miss out on eating and drinking. Does anyone want to join the Dark Hunter Legion? If you are my brother, join the Dark Hunter Legion. Come here, the Fishers Union is recruiting. Sign up first. It won't affect your work. We are recruiting refining apprentices. They are purely sideline and don't need experience. They will teach you step by step and won't affect your main profession. 100 high-quality pearls per month. A moment later, a girl who looked like a girl frowned and looked at the 2 people in front of her. Why are you only advanced dangling fishers? How can you get a 3-star rank? Ling Yuan frowned and said, Why? Are you doubting our strength? The girl sneered. I don't know if you got in through the back door. Do you know where you are going? Chu Jinan asked in a daze, Where? The girl straightened her posture and said, Cough, cough, listen up. I am Wu Xiaoxiao, the captain of the 37th Advanced Scout Squad of the 8th Battalion under the 3rd column of the Skeleton Shore. I received a message from my superiors that 2 3-star members will come today. I didn't expect that they would be advanced dangling fishers. Chu Jinan smiled and said, "You may not be able to defeat us, Duong." Duong Wu Xiaoxiao was about to teach the arrogant boy a lesson when she looked at the crowd in surprise. Why is the door-carrying marshal here? Hasn't he become a law enforcer? Why is he here to pick us up? Wang Dashuai, who was carrying a big gate, attracted a lot of attention. He was looking around. Junior brother, junior sister. Which one is Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan? Wu Xiaoxiao. Chapter 975. It had been a full year and a half since the war on the ancient battlefield. The Scattered Stars Island slightly relaxed the entry standards for the major academies of the 36 towns and the 7 academies of the 1,000-star city. At the same time, they also opened the entry qualifications for some peak-level dangling fishers in the Level 3 fishery. Although the standards were only relaxed a little bit. The result of this little bit of standards was that hundreds of thousands of people suddenly poured into the Scattered Stars Island. After all, the population under the rule of the 1,000-star city was too large. Just like in the college entrance examination, a difference of 1 point could defeat thousands of troops. Now, this was the situation. Because of the addition of these people, the people who were originally stationed on the Scattered Stars Island could go a little deeper into the waters around the Scattered Stars Island to hunt. This year was destined to be the busiest year for the promotion of talents on the Scattered Stars Island. Because there was no invasion of sea demons, the strength of human beings grew very fast. At least, there were especially many people who broke through from peak-level dangling fishers to hanging fishers. Of course, this was only the offshore sea, which was relatively safe. Everyone only needed to face the dangers from the sea itself, without the invasion of sea demons. However, there were still many sea demons outside the sea 200,000 kilometers away. Although the 10,000 Demon Valley was hit hard once, causing the battle line to shrink, with the danger and vastness of the sea, human beings still couldn't set foot further into the deep sea. In this year, there would always be some people quietly rising. Some people's stories were also spread by word of mouth. In fact, on the sea, any battle could actually become a story. For example, someone discovered a small mystic realm today. As long as the explorer survived, he would have one more topic in the carnival shop. Another example was that someone found an exotic creature somewhere. They would exaggerate the process of the capture, which could also become a topic of conversation. Anyway, the carnival shop was a place for drinking and bragging. There were simply too many pieces of news that were left there every day. It could even be said to be innumerable. In addition to these topics, of course, there were often some strange situations. For example, a team went to sea and never came back. For example, a certain human was found to be problematic and was caught by the Scattered Stars prison. For example, someone fought with sea demons in the outer sea, and among them, there was a story like this. It was said that in the outer sea, several mysterious people appeared. They came and went unpredictably. In just 1 year, they had destroyed no less than 100 sea demon nests. Some people said that it was the law enforcers. However, they couldn't let the sirens know that a large number of law enforcers were hunting them, so they made up a few mysterious characters. Some people said that they were from the Empyrean waterfall who had been grounded and were now out to cause trouble to the sea demons. Some people said that he was saved by someone during his exploration, and that the person was Han Fei. The pair of phantom glass wings was very beautiful. In any case, there were all kinds of them. Should he take it seriously? That was the matter of the storyteller. On this day, the sky was clear and boundless, and the clouds were high and far away. About 600,000 kilometers away from the Scattered Stars Island, 4 people were crouching in a sand pit in a deep valley with a sand waterfall. Lu Renquang said, "Fei Fei, it's been 3 days. Why haven't the sea demons come out yet? Luo Xiaobai nodded. Don't worry. This treasure trove shouldn't be very large. Maybe something inside has attracted them. Zhang Xuanyu was playing with the sand in boredom. Why don't we just go in and kill them? At this moment, Han Fei was chewing dried fish in his mouth and said lazily, Don't panic. This time, the other party is led by a sea spirit. Besides, the other party has a large number of people. Let's kill some of them first. After another 2 hours, it will be a full 3 days. If they don't come out, we'll go in again. Not long after Han Fei and the others finished talking, in the valley, a sea spirit appeared in a seemingly ordinary stone. This person glanced around and didn't notice anything wrong. Thus, he calmly waited for the people behind him to come out. Han Fei grinned. What did I say? Let's do it. Swish, 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 the 4 of them attacked at the same time, regardless of whether the people behind would come out or not. Because it was meaningless for them. As long as the sea spirit was subdued, the rest were just minions. The sea spirit, who had just relaxed, was instantly worried. In that instant, he didn't turn around. Instead, he directly ignited his blood and unleashed the sea god's descent, releasing his companion's spirit. However, a large number of vines rolled up from the ground, and a stinging light instantly appeared behind him, leaving him no time to dodge. At this time, the space here had been distorted. Humph! How dare a hidden fisher come here to die? The sea spirit completely ignored Zhang Xuanyu's spear and directly used a flicker-type combat skill similar to the flying flower demon Flash. However, the space was distorted, and his shoulder was still pierced by the spear. How is this possible? Oh! As soon as the sea spirit flashed out, he saw a pair of phantom wings appear in the place he wanted to flash to faster than him. The bright fist mark illuminated the sea shrouded in darkness. Blood burning, the sea spirit tried to resist with all his strength, but he still ignored the power of this punch. The power of the hidden fisher was actually 2 waves. Bam! This person was directly blasted into a big dark hole. This sea spirit didn't even have a chance to activate Sea God Descends before he was sucked in by the big hole. A cold knife light passed through the big dark hole, stretched out from inside, and penetrated his semi-divine battle suit. Parasite! Then, the sea spirit began to sprout in his body. A terrifying vitality broke out from his body, and seaweed grew wildly in his wounds, mouth, and nose. Third sky of the sea-shaking realm. Bam! 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 The space 10 meters around the sea spirit was shaking. Every vibration contained a terrifying power. 3 times in a row, the sea spirit's internal organs were shattered and his bones were broken. Han Fei didn't even need to do anything. The 4 of them cooperated and killed a sea spirit-level powerhouse. From the moment this sea spirit was hit by Zhang Xuanyu's spear, his body was no longer under his control. He wanted to use the power of law, but his power was sound waves. Under a series of bombardments, he had no chance to use it at all. Besides, his associated spirit didn't listen to his call at all, as if it was controlled by someone else. How could he win? He was thinking that he could still be reborn and had the immortal seal. However, at the moment when his heart was pierced, a terrifying soul explosion fell on him. At that moment, the sea spirit's soul was in chaos, and he couldn't use the immortal seal at all, so he died directly. And as soon as he died, the big jellyfish pinned by Han Fei with the void lines disintegrated and died together with its master. The whole battle process didn't take more than 2 minutes. A sea spirit powerhouse was easily killed by Han Fei and the others. Swish! When the second sea demon came out of the secret realm, he happened to see this scene, and Han Fei waved at him. Surprised. After killing more than 30 half-mermaids in a row, Han Fei and the others were sure that the remaining 20 or so should have died in the secret realm. And this time, the harvest was quite abundant, with 3 sea-swallowing seashells full of resources, more than 100,000 caddies of spiritual spring, a mid-quality divine weapon, a bottle of pills, nearly 100 spiritual fruits, and dozens of combat skills. However, Han Fei and the others didn't take it seriously. For humans, the fastest way to grow was to obtain resources from the ocean. And they had done this dozens of times and had long been used to it. 3 hours later, the 4 of them came out of the secret realm. Most of the secret realm was destroyed, but it could be vaguely seen that there was a prehistoric sea demon here, so they didn't get any extra gains. Luo Xiaobai said lightly, "Now, as long as we don't go to the 10,000 Demon Valley, many things here are actually of little use to us, unless we find a large secret realm. However, that's extremely rare. Should we consider going back to the Scattered Stars Island?" Han Fei nodded slightly and then shook his head. "Xiaobai, do you feel something wrong?" Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei and reorganized her thoughts. "Yes, a little bit. If I were that sea spirit, I would find a way to bring that prehistoric creature back to the 10,000 Demon Valley. This is more meaningful than killing him." Han Fei nodded. "Yes, but now the ancient sea demon inside is dead. We don't know why they did this." Zhang Xuanyu said, "Will there be any information in the resources we just seized?" Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Wait, let me check again." Lu Renquang said, "I think it's very simple. If it were us, if we met a living ancient person, I'm afraid we would also become an enemy." After a while, Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. "No, they're just pure resources." Han Fei smiled and said, "Forget it, let's go back to the island. No matter what the sea demons do, they shouldn't be able to touch the Scattered Stars Island in a short time. And we should go to the 1,000-Star City." Zhang Xuanyu joked, "Xiaobai, you're going home. Are you excited?" Luo Xiaobai said lightly, "No." Chapter 976. 2 days after the 4 of them left, a crimson figure appeared outside this sand waterfall secret realm. If Han Fei were here, he would definitely recognize this person. "Isn't this Qixue Huan?" Back then, he was cheated by me. However, Qixue Huan's face was a little ugly at this moment. He said coldly, "The same technique, but there are spiritual plants. It's Han Fei and the other 3. A half-mermaid in the sea demon realm said respectfully, "My lord, they are too mobile. Every time they attack, they quickly end the battle, leaving no one alive. We can't go on like this." Qixue Huan didn't care about this, but how did Han Fei and the others know about this mission? Could it be that it was a coincidence that they met again? Or Han Fei and the others have some special ability to track the whereabouts of sea demons? Qixue Huan's eyes turned cold. "Chase them." My lord, Han Fei and the others are elusive. How can we chase them?" Qixue Huan said coldly. "Doesn't he like to hunt our people? In this case, I'll be the bait myself." 5 days later, Han Fei and the others were not in a hurry to return to the Scattered Stars Island. Even if the Wind God boat flew at full speed, it would take more than 10 days. Besides, they were not in a hurry now. Wandering on the sea, fishing, and eating hot pot were more enjoyable than traveling. The point was that they had raised their contractual spiritual beasts in the sea. For example, now, all of Han Fei's contractual spiritual beasts had reached level 49. And Little Black and Little White had reached level 53. This was the result of countless battles over the past year. Han Fei didn't deliberately use spirit awakening fluid to catalyze them. Obviously, contractual spiritual beasts also had their own cultivation. Combat experience, comprehension, and devouring other creatures could all play a role in improving their strength. It didn't mean that they had to eat some kind of elixir, Han Fei thought to himself. Just let them work hard on their own. But when they were at the last step, he could throw tens of thousands of kilograms of spirit awakening fluid to help them make a breakthrough. During this period, Han Fei entered the Soul Sea once, when he was breaking through to become a peak-level hidden fisher. However, after various attempts and eating a lot of primitive spiritual beasts, he was still forcibly driven out by the terrifying power. Similarly, perhaps because they didn't manage to come in before, Little Black and Little White only leveled up twice in the Soul Sea, and then there was no more. And Han Fei had tried Little Black and Little White's fusion skill. If the fusion was the fusion of Little Black, Little White, and himself, then fusion meant that he could combine with Little Black and Little White, turning him into a kind of fish. The greatest advantage of this talent skill was that it could turn into a fish. Besides, Han Fei could borrow Little White's treasure-hunting ability, but in fact it was superfluous. Little White could find it by itself. However, there was also a problem with this fusion skill. That was Little Black, Little White, and himself. The three of them combined into one, which made the advantage of Little Black and Little White's immortality disappear. Once they encountered an uncontrollable danger, once they died, Little Black and Little White might really die. Of course, after the fusion, Han Fei was very powerful, so he wouldn't die so easily. But he had to be careful, so Han Fei didn't like this skill very much. If he had to turn into a fish, Han Fei felt that it was more reliable to deduce the 3 transformation wondrous book. However, now that he was going to the 1,000-star city, there was no need for this. Lu Renkuang muttered, "The growth of my spiritual beasts and contractual spiritual beasts is so troublesome. My spiritual clam is only level 46. When can it break through level 50? Zhang Xuanyu rolled his eyes and said, "Just be content. Just look at the cultivation time of those sea demons. Takes time for them to grow. Anyway, I'm not in a hurry." Luo Xiaobai said, "This can't be rushed. Whether it's spiritual beasts or contractual spiritual beasts, they all need a process to grow. It's not that they grow too slowly, but that we grow too fast." Lu Renkuang said, "Then should we become law enforcers?" Han Fei asked in surprise, "Can you?" Lu Renkuang sighed. "Not yet. I'm a little confused about my path." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "What are you confused about? Your path is to eat." Zhang Xuanyu nodded quickly. "Yes, just eat. I feel that this path will definitely be carried forward by you." Lu Renkuang was amused. "I'm still thinking if I should take the path of infinite defense. Eating is just my hobby." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Your hobby is what you want." Lu Renkuang. Zhang Xuanyu smacked his lips and said, "Anyway, my path has long been set. I can become a law enforcer at any time." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Me too." Han Fei nodded. "Me too." Lu Renkuang was a little confused. "Do you really think I can become a law enforcer?" The three of them nodded. Han Fei patted Lu Renkuang's shoulder and said, "Have you forgotten? You're a man who single-handedly ate 17 people." Lu Renkuang took a breath. "Wow. That seems to be true." Lu Renkuang immediately said, "Then let's go. Let's go back to the Empyrean waterfall. There's still 300,000 kilometers to go. Let's go back." When they decided to go back, Little White suddenly jumped out of the water and swam to Han Fei. "Dad, there are sea demon powerhouses, more than 3,000 kilometers away." Han Fei frowned. "Daughter, are there many of them?" Little White blinked a few times. "Yes. A large area." Han Fei's eyes lit up. "Let's go back. There's a job coming." Zhang Xuanyu was overjoyed. "Sea spirit level?" Han Fei nodded. "Yes, it should be sea spirit level. But this time, it may be a little stronger." Zhang Xuanyu said, "It's good that it's stronger. The junior sea spirits are no longer enough for us to fight." Han Fei grinned. "That's what I mean too. Now, if we kill one more, we will have less trouble in the future. God knows when we will come back from the 1,000-star city." Lu Renkuang nodded. "Then let's do the last one." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "Okay, let's go back after this." 1 hour later. Han Fei said, "I sense that there are about 50 people 300 kilometers away. There are more than 10 hidden fishers. It seems that the other party's action is very important." Luo Xiaobai frowned. Why are there so many hidden fissures in the 300,000 kilometers of the scattered stars island? You know, there are often human law enforcers wandering 200,000 kilometers away. Zhang Xuanyu licked his lips and said, "Maybe they have found some large relics here." Han Fei nodded. "It doesn't matter. No matter what their purpose is, a sea spirit and 10 hidden fissures can't cause any trouble. But this time, should we still follow them? Or directly kill them?" Luo Xiaobai said, "Follow them. If there is a secret realm, we can take it together." Lu Renquang nodded. "Although we have accumulated a lot of resources this year, compared with the big families in the Thousand-Star City, we are still far behind. However, compared with the big families in the Thousand-Star City, they're far inferior. I'd better take the opportunity to get more." Han Fei nodded. "Okay. Then follow them." After following them for half a day, Han Fei said in surprise, "I wonder what they are looking for? If they know where the secret realm is, shouldn't they have found it long ago?" Luo Xiaobai and the others didn't have such a far perception, so they didn't know the situation. However, Han Fei knew it. With a sea spirit leading the way, they still hadn't found the secret realm? Something was not quite right. And Han Fei's perception and attention were all on the team that was searching. However, he did not notice that in the sea, there was a red mass of seaweed, approaching in their direction. At this moment, it was less than 100 kilometers away from where Han Fei was. Suddenly, Han Fei frowned slightly. "Xiaobai, stop following them. Let's directly kill them. I have a feeling that something is wrong." Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei in surprise. "Should we just retreat? Anyway, it's just a wave of sea demons." Han Fei said, "In any case, let's keep our contractual spiritual beasts first." Swish, swish. Rays of light were absorbed into their bodies. They were all experienced people. Once their intuition appeared, they had to be cautious. Han Fei was about to say something, but suddenly, a red light pounced on them in an instant. Han Fei roared, "Retreat!" Luo Xiaobai and the others retreated quickly, their faces changing. "Not good, we've been tricked." Han Fei didn't panic. He stretched out his palm and the infinity water pounced on the red light. Explode! Rumble! Han Fei didn't hesitate at all. A character that could quietly enter his perception range, avoid Xiaobai's danger premonition, and get so close to him without being discovered was definitely extraordinary. The terrifying explosion set off tumbling waves. It was like a mushroom cloud rising, and the red light was directly torn apart. At that moment, Han Fei and the others all activated their secret method. Zhang Xuanyu and the others had already fused with their spiritual beasts and stabilized their figures in midair. "Huh! A high-quality divine weapon exploding? You're really willing to sacrifice yourself. I've really suffered a loss." Under the impact of the self-explosion, Han Fei and the others had been blasted more than 10 kilometers away. The sea surface was directly sunk into a deep pit, which couldn't be smoothed out for a long time. And in the terrifying explosion, a set of bright red armor appeared. Immediately afterward, Qixue Huan walked out of the terrifying wave. Qixue Huan looked a little embarrassed, but the degree of injury seemed insignificant. Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Qixue Huan, ranked 7th among the 8 wings of Blue Feather. Luo Xiaobai and the others instantly became serious. This time, it was different from before. The 8 wings of Blue Feather were peak-level sea spirits, which were completely different from ordinary sea spirits. In Han Fei's perception, the sea spirit and dozens of sea demon realm powerhouses, who were looking for something, were also rushing over and would arrive soon. Han Fei grinned coldly. "I didn't expect that I would be tricked by a group of fishes today." Han Fei didn't use voice transmission, because voice transmission was useless. He said directly, "Leave Qixue Huan and the other sea spirit to me. The rest is all yours." Chapter 977. With a thought, Han Fei gathered the infinity water and put it away with a flip of his hand. This was going to be a tough battle. In addition to this sea spirit, the remaining dozens of peak-level sea demons were not so easy to deal with. Fortunately, Han Fei and the other three were also peak-level hidden fishers. In the same realm, they were the real heavenly talent. Huh. Isn't that a high-quality divine weapon? It can be reassembled? However, in terms of power, it's at most an ultra-quality divine weapon. Are you going to use this to deal with me? Han Fei licked the corner of his mouth. Who said I'm going to fight you? Qixue Huan's eyes narrowed slightly. If you don't fight me, is there anyone else here? Impossible. He was sure that Han Fei was bluffing. If there were stronger opponents, they should have found him long ago. Qixue Huan grinned. Do you think I will be fooled by you? Another sea spirit-level powerhouse had already appeared 100 miles away with a large group of people. Qixue Huan didn't mind Han Fei wasting more time. In that way, they would only die faster. Swish, the illusory image of a mountain suddenly appeared. Qixue Huan's eyes narrowed slightly, but then his face changed drastically. Who is it? Swish. As the mountain disappeared, a blood-red long knife appeared in front of Han Fei, floating erratically. The knife was actually talking. Master, you let me come out. It seems that Master is in big trouble. Qixue Huan's face changed drastically. A talking knife? What the hell is this? Han Fei pointed to Qixue Huan and said, You can use your spiritual energy and kill him. With that, the phantom glass wings spread out behind Han Fei. Agility of wind. With a swish, Han Fei disappeared on the spot, leaving behind a shadow clone. And Luo Xiaobai and the other two also flew in Han Fei's direction. If it was just a sea spirit, the three of them wouldn't be afraid at this moment. However, Han Fei was the only one who could kill a sea spirit in a one-on-one battle. Behind him, Qixue Huan took a step forward, and his 4 fingers turned into shadows, trying to pierce through the void and nail Han Fei to death. However, the punishing knife slashed across the air. The terrifying power slashed into the void and shattered the attack. Punishing saber snorted softly. How dare you be distracted in front of me? You are courting death. Buzz. The 1,000-foot-long saber radiance shattered the void. The terrifying might engulfed heaven and earth, and the speed was too fast. Qixue Huan was shocked. What the hell are you? The medium-quality divine harpoon Chao punishing saber threw out broke inch by inch with just one blow. The terrifying roar reverberated for 100 miles. Punishing blade laughed and said, What am I? I am the yin-yang soul subduing saber. To be able to block one of my attacks, you're at your peak. TSK, no wonder Master called me out. On Han Fei's side, the problem was simple. Even if he couldn't beat Qixue Huan, he could beat a junior sea spirit. Even without the devil change, Han Fei had almost 2 waves of power. After devil transformation, the terrifying power of 16 waves, along with a golden fist imprint, already caused the void to tremble. Seeing this scene, the sea spirit's face changed drastically. Is Han Fei so strong? Secret method, Sea God descends. Boom. The sea spirit was blasted away by a punch and was directly blasted back 100 meters. Han Fei sneered. No wonder you can still withstand my blow. It turns out to be an intermediate sea spirit. In the past year, Han Fei and the others had already discovered some secrets of the sea spirit realm. At this realm, the pure power of a peak-level junior sea spirit was about 3 waves, and the intermediate level was at least 5 waves. Therefore, when they used Sea God Descends, they couldn't increase their strength by 5 times like hidden fishers, but could only increase it by 3 times at most. This was just like his devil change, which could provide 10 times the strength at first. But with the growth of his strength, it was now maintained at 8 times. Han Fei guessed that when he became a law enforcer, this number was likely to become 6 times or even 5 times. This was because after becoming stronger, if the secret method remained the same, it would be difficult for his body to bear that energy. This also meant that as his strength became stronger, He wouldn't have to rely on secret methods to win in the future. Of course, in the realm of law enforcers, secret methods should still be very useful. When he became an explorer, he must have a corresponding level of heaven-defying cultivation method. Otherwise, Han Fei suspected that with the devil change, he might not even be able to increase his strength by 2 times. And the intermediate sea spirit that Han Fei was facing should have just entered the intermediate level, and its strength happened to be 5 wave. Under the effect of Sea God Descends, its strength was about 15 waves, a little weaker than Han Fei's. However, the difference was not big. Swish! Han Fei's doppelgangers once again filled the sky, and golden fist marks shook the void, and the void lines swept out. On the other hand, Luo Xiaobai and the others were fighting more vigorously. Countless giant vines emerged from the sea, and the grand spirit summoning technique summoned dozens of spiritual plants of different shapes, directly wrapping up everything within a kilometer. In this battle, Zhang Xuanyu was the most direct and violent one. As soon as he used momentary time, someone would die. No one in the ordinary sea demon realm could resist the power of Zhang Xuanyu's spear. The 3 battlefields were filled with raging waves. At the moment when the void lines appeared, the sea spirit on the opposite side felt that there was a crisis everywhere and a law descended. That law turned out to be bloodthirsty. He was guiding the essence blood in Han Fei's body, trying to overflow. For others, this law was very strong. However, Han Fei had broken through the 3rd level of the indestructible body, and the major acupoints of the 108 desolate god body had been combined. Han Fei forcibly suppressed the turbulence of his blood and qi. How is it possible? You are just a hidden fisher. How can you resist the power of the law? Han Fei grinned. I haven't exerted my full strength for a long time. Let me show you. Swish. Han Fei accelerated, using the agility of wind to increase his speed by 4 times, and with the enhancement of the devil change, this sea spirit in front of him couldn't catch up at all. Boom! Han Fei's figure seemed to have disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already on the side of the sea spirit, and the latter still wanted to dodge. However, a terrifying gravity suddenly descended, making his body sink. Han Fei punched at his waist and abdomen. At the same time, all 10 void lines were hung up. At this moment, Han Fei no longer needed to control the void lines separately. In the past, he didn't have enough soul power, and he wanted to control all the sea spirit. But now, Han Fei's soul power was so amazing that ordinary sea spirits couldn't shake him at all. Boom! With another punch, this sea spirit was directly blasted into Luo Xiaobai's battle group. And over there, 7 or 8 people had already died. Seeing that their savior had come, someone immediately roared, "Master, this mist is a poisonous illusion." However, as soon as the man finished speaking, he found that this so-called master pierced through him with a harpoon. Han Fei was about to go over, but suddenly his body softened. He hurriedly summoned a large amount of spiritual spring and energy fruits and crushed them, and then he saw the spiritual spring and energy fruits all fly in the direction of the punishing saber. There was a fierce battle, and the raging waves rolled up to 500 or 600 meters high, one wave after another. Han Fei hurriedly stuffed a few energy fruits into his mouth and sighed. How long has it been? The consumption is too great. I should have called water luster. After all, the sea is her home field. Just now, Han Fei thought that water luster was not as lethal as the punishing saber, so he thought the punishing saber could kill Qixue Huan with a few slashes. It seemed that he had thought too much. On this side, a sea spirit and Han Fei joined the battle, and these sea demons couldn't resist them at all. In order to prevent them from running away, Han Fei directly suppressed them with the law of gravity, and at the same time, the void chains swept across the sky, and little gold bombarded them with the lightning blade. Zhang Xuanyu used soul explosion technique, and Lu Renquang slashed around with the true martial demonic knife. At this time, this place was like a shuraba, and most of the sea demons were killed in an instant. The rest could only hold on for a while longer. In the distance, Chishuahuan exploded, and the area within 3,000 meters was covered by red seaweed. Spirit entanglement. Han Fei took the sea spirit and flew into the sky, and at the same time rushed to that area. However, the intermediate sea spirit next to him had just entered the spirit entangling red seaweed, and was directly killed. At this moment, Han Fei discovered that there were countless red lines in the void. Puff, puff, puff. The intermediate sea spirit only lasted for less than 3 minutes before his body was cut into countless pieces. Slash. At that moment, Han Fei was drained again, and he immediately took out a large number of energy fruits and spiritual energy to replenish it. But at that moment the sky and the earth changed color, and the void was directly cracked, as if there was a knife mark, and it was pitch black. Puff! At that moment, the red seaweed was all shattered, and a red light disappeared between heaven and earth, and an arm flew in the sky and fell into the sea. When the waves gradually subsided, Han Fei grabbed the arm and said, "Did he escape?" The punishing saber trembled. "Yes. That person is a bit special. He is not an ordinary creature. He is half a step into the realm of explorer. However, it is impossible for his right arm to regenerate. Since it was cut off by me, there is no possibility of regeneration unless a venerable takes action." Han Fei thought to himself, "If you can't kill him, then so be it. You almost drained me several times, but I haven't killed him yet." The punishing saber seemed a little embarrassed. "Master, I was afraid that, if I sucked too much, you wouldn't be able to fight at all." Han Fei said lightly, "I see. So be it. It's no big deal." When the punishing saber returned, Han Fei suddenly grimaced. "Am I someone who lacks spiritual energy and energy? This is a peak-level sea spirit. If the punishing saber killed Chishuahuan, it would be a great help to him." Lu Renkuang swallowed. "The 8 wings of blue feather were defeated?" Han Fei said lightly, "What do you think? He is not an explorer. So, now we are also people who have the capital." Chapter 978. Chishuahuan didn't expect that Han Fei had such a helper. What he didn't know was that Han Fei couldn't release all the 5 legends in the sea-quelling painting at once. Otherwise, Chishuahuan would be annihilated as soon as he showed up, let alone run away. This time, Han Fei was really going home. If he didn't go back, even if Blue Feather came in person and the 5 legends came out, it would be useless. 100,000 kilometers offshore of the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei and the others went to the ancient battlefield, and the wind god boat streaked across the sky. From time to time, someone would appear on the sea and scan with their perception. With this scan, they immediately exclaimed, "It's the 4 of them?" As early as when Han Fei and the others entered the ancient battlefield, they had already been scanned by law enforcers. At this time, Han Fei's goal was the huge sea fortress on the ancient battlefield, a bit similar to the Pearl Divers port in the Sea of Pearls. However, the scale was much smaller. After all, the Sea of Pearls was less dangerous, and hanging fishers could go there. On the ancient battlefield, every hanging fisher who came would die, so there was basically no other possibility. Therefore, the sea fortress was naturally smaller. However, no matter how small it was still a long-term development base, and it was half the size of a dragon boat. There were also some shops on it, mainly for resource recycling, spiritual energy monopoly, spiritual fruit monopoly, refining hall, auction house, etc. When Han Fei and the others approached, they met an acquaintance. It was Yi Xingchen, whom Han Fei had met once before. Yi Xingchen was standing at the top of the fortress, looking at Han Fei and the others with a gloomy face. Last time, it was because of his blabbermouth that Han Fei stole an undersea chimney. How could he look good when he saw Han Fei? Of course, this was just a matter of fact. Yi Xingchen was not surprised by Han Fei's achievements at all. It was even said that 2 of the seal stones of the ancient battlefield were destroyed by Han Fei. At the top of the fortress, Han Fei and the others stood in midair. Senior Yi, what a coincidence! Yi Xingqian looked at Han Fei and the others and was a little surprised. You 4, your cultivation speed is really fast. Why, the 4 little dragons in the waves. Han Fei and the others were stunned. What 4 little dragons in the waves? Yi Xingqian snorted. I'm told that you killed a lot of sea demons in the deep sea. Everyone gave you nicknames mainly because you guys are crazy and unrestrained enough. Then Yi Xingqian said casually, Han Fei, let me ask you something. What's inside that cave? Han Fei asked in confusion, which hole? Yi Xingqian snapped, who else could it be? The one from the primordial battlefield. Han Fei asked in surprise, you don't know? That's the tunnel that leads to the underground city. Yi Xingqian said, I know it leads to the underground city. However, the danger inside seemed to be beyond our imagination. In just 1 year, more than 100 hidden fissures have died inside. Han Fei asked in surprise, what level did they enter? Yi Xingqian said, the weakest one is an intermediate hidden fissure. Of course, they are mainly advanced hidden fissures. Han Fei said, don't you have any suggestions, General? My suggestion is to wait until you are a peak-level hidden fissure. There was a river inside. As long as they didn't cross the river, it should be fine. Once we cross that river, it will be extremely dangerous. Yi Xingqian nodded slightly. Someone also suggested this to me. However, it would be a pity if such a place of training didn't come in handy. Han Fei thought that these hidden fissures would fight on the battlefield in the future. It would be a pity if they died now. He immediately said, you should already know most of the situation inside. However, there are too many law enforcers inside and you can encounter them easily. Heavenly talents may be fine, but advanced hidden fissures who don't have any real skills really can't brace themselves to go in. Yi Xingqian nodded slightly. Okay. Did you come here on purpose, or what? Han Fei said, just passing by. We are on our way to the Scattered Stars Island. Yi Xingqian raised his eyebrows. You're leaving? Han Fei nodded. If we don't leave now, we'll have to go to the 10,000 Demon Valley. Hearing Han Fei's words, Yi Xingqian couldn't help but grin, thinking, if only you could conquer the 10,000 Demon Valley. Han Fei thought for a moment and said, well, by the way, I have something to tell you, Senior. I think the 10,000 Demon Valley is too quiet. They seem to be preparing to do something. I was going to tell the General about this later, but I happened to meet you, so I told you. Yi Xingqian said solemnly, okay, got it. Scattered Stars Island, Skeleton Shore. 800 kilometers away from the sea, seaweeds spread. These seaweeds were a little different. They looked a little cold and contained a lot of spiritual energy. On the seaweed, a total of 14 people were cooperating in the attack. All the creatures attracted by the spiritual energy were imprisoned by this piece of seaweed. Therefore, on the seaweed, the group of people didn't have a good time killing. Among them, there was a little girl who seemed to be dancing on the seaweed, carrying an armor box on her back, and sword light flew out of the armor box from time to time. The swords were flying, as if they were dancing beautifully. If one looked carefully, they would find that the swords used by this girl were different from each other. There were 7 in total. Every time they went into the gap of the seaweed, they would cut a creature into pieces. After about 5 minutes, a voice suddenly sounded. Okay, everyone, get ready to take off. Wu Xiaoxiao shouted, take off. A brawny man shouted, take off. After everybody took off, the large area of seaweed gathered and turned into a human shape. Stepping on 2 flying swords, he leaped into the air and landed on the fishing boat. Wu Xiaoxiao couldn't help but sigh. Is the Thug Academy full of perverts? Chu Jinan, are we dating? Chu Jinan immediately blushed. Little miss, don't joke with me. Who's joking with you? Smack. Someone slapped the armor box on the ground. The people of the Thug Academy don't date outsiders. Wu Xiaoxiao narrowed her eyes. Ling Yuan, there are only 2 people in your year. Do you mean that you 2 are dating? Ling Yuan blushed slightly. I'm told that the academy has a new junior sister. Jinan, what do you think? Chu Jinan felt that his blood was freezing. Forget it, forget it. I think it's good to be single. Huh. Chu Jinan shivered. I mean, Ling Yuan, it's good to be single. Yes. Gu Daliang said with a smile. Huh? You're the same as Captain Han. I'm told that the door-carrying marshal was the same. Chu Jinan cried in his heart. I tried to resist, all right? But I couldn't. Chu Jinan said in a hurry. We can continue after I recover for a while. Suddenly, someone dashed over. Everybody said solemnly, Captain. Yu Lingyun said, Don't call me Captain. My transfer order has been issued. Xiao, your application to go home has been issued too. But are you sure you want to go home? Wu Xiao grinned. I'm ready to become a hidden fisher. You know that I'm timid, so I won't go to the ancient battlefield for now. The cloud-soaring town is too short of teachers. I'm going back to be a teacher. It'll be comfortable and comfortable. Yu Lingyun nodded. Okay, that's fine. That way, you won't have to face dangers all the time. Then, Yu Lingyun looked at Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan and said, Lil Nan, Ling Yuan, I received news an hour ago that the 4 of them are back. However, I don't think they can stay for long. Do you want to meet them? Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan looked at each other and said in unison, Yes, of course. On the way back, Wu Xiaoxiao said, Alas, I heard that they killed countless enemies outside. Unfortunately, we are not on the same level. Gu Daliang also nodded. Yes. Do you want to meet them? Wu Xiaoxiao rolled her eyes and said, Why should I meet them? They're gone. I hope we can meet again one day in the future. But I don't think it's possible. Deep in the twisted jungle, Mu Qingchuan was making dumplings and Chu Linyuan was kneading dough. The atmosphere was harmonious. Mu Qingchuan smiled and said, President, do you want to change the taste? I think braised pork is also good. Chu Linyuan nodded. President, I always think it's a bit strange to eat dumplings with hot pot. Old Bai said leisurely, What do you mean strange? After this meal, you can go to that place. Suddenly, Mu Qingchuan paused. Haven't General and Bai Lu already gone there? Do you still need us? Old Bai shook his head slightly. Our Thug Academy is short of manpower. At this time, the barrier opened and Han Fei shouted, Old Bai, we are back. Lu Renquang asked, President, is there anything to eat? Zhang Xuanyu said, Phew! Finally, I can have a good sleep. Chu Linyuan said in surprise, Oh, junior brothers and junior sisters are back. Qingchuan and I made some dumplings. Let's eat together. Mu Qingchuan smiled and said, Xiaobai, how was the harvest? Luo Xiaobai saluted and said, Quite a lot. With a swish, Old Bai sat up straight and then looked at Han Fei and the others. Well, our school funds have been a bit tight recently. I heard that we have accepted 10 students. As senior brothers and sisters, you 4 should act like senior brothers. Han Fei and the others. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Can't the fish dragons support them? Chu Linyuan smiled and said, Okay, President, we have stocks. Han Fei and the others are going to the 1,000-star city, which is when they need resources. Chu Linyuan changed the topic and said with a smile, Junior brother, junior sister, you can share some of your combat skills. The more the better. Luo Xiaobai said in surprise, Doesn't our school only want high-quality combat skills? Mu Qingchuan smiled and said, Different combat skills have their own advantages. I'll make a copy of your combat skills to train my junior brothers and sisters. Han Fei took out a sea-swallowing seashell and said, I have more than 2,000 of them. No one wants this cheap stuff. Chu Linyuan and Mu Qingchuan immediately stopped talking and lowered their heads to make dumplings. Old Bai leaned back on the recliner and snorted. Let's talk about it after dinner. Hum. The barrier trembled again, and Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan ran in. When the two saw Han Fei and the others, they shouted, "Hello, senior brothers and senior sisters." When Han Fei saw Chu Jinan, who was a head taller than before, he was a little surprised. "Oh, not bad, you look quite sturdy." Han Fei patted Chu Jinan on the shoulder and exclaimed in admiration. Zhang Xuanyu looked at Ling Yuan in shock. "Whose girl is she? She can't be Ling Yuan, right? She is much more beautiful than Ling Yuan." Ling Yuan rolled her eyes. "Senior Marshal Brother Yu, move to the side." Zhang Xuanyu. Han Fei hugged Chu Jinan and said, "Nan, I know you are here, so I specially prepared a gift for you." Chu Jinan's eyes lit up. "Senior brother has been thinking about us." He couldn't help but say happily, "Thank you, senior brother." Ling Yuan couldn't help but be curious. Han Fei even prepared gifts for them? This was not Han Fei's style. Han Fei stuffed the sea-swallowing seashell in his hand into Chu Jinan's hand and said, "Nan, in order to enrich your knowledge, I specially prepared more than 2,000 combat skills for you. Make a copy of them tonight and read them slowly. After reading them, remember to return them to me tomorrow." Everyone. Chapter 979. After eating and chatting for about an hour, Han Fei did give Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan some things. However, he only gave them some ordinary things, and the rest were stopped by Old Bai. In the words of Old Bai, no powerhouse became a powerhouse completely with the help of others. If they wanted resources, the ocean was there. They could get them themselves. After dinner, in Old Bai's house. At this moment, Old Bai set up layer after layer of seals. Han Fei and the others sat opposite Old Bai. Han Fei and the others knew that they were going to the Thousand-Star City, but they didn't know what to do there. The unknown place was already very vast. If they really wanted to go to the periphery, it should be a good experience. If they started from here, as long as they spent enough time, they could always go to the Thousand-Star City. It seemed that there was no need to go to the Thousand-Star City. Of course, Han Fei and the others had a rough idea. That was, Old Bai still wanted to rebuild the Thug Academy in the Thousand-Star City. This was the only reason they could come up with based on Old Bai's personality. At this moment, Old Bai said leisurely, "You can already enforce the law? Don't enforce the law in the Empyrean waterfall." Han Fei was puzzled. "Huh? Why?" Old Bai said lightly, "The four of you don't matter. Besides, enforcing the law in the Empyrean waterfall is easy to go astray and will be affected by the laws there. It's none of my business, but you'd better not." Han Fei thought to himself, "There's a huge deep-sea demon down there, which is essentially different from human kings. Maybe that's the reason?" However, judging from Old Bai's expression, Han Fei guessed that Old Bai also knew the secret in the hole under the old turtle. Han Fei asked, "President, do you mean we should make the breakthrough in the Thousand-Star City?" Old Bai nodded. "Xiao Bai should know better. In the Thousand-Star City there are a few special places." Everyone immediately turned their heads and looked at Luo Xiaobai. "What special places? Does Old Bai want us to go to those places to make breakthroughs?" Luo Xiaobai nodded slightly. "The three holy lands of the Thousand-Star City are the God's Memorial Tower, the Sky Meditation Garden, and the Ideal Palace. No one has ever been able to completely see through these three places. They are also holy lands that have existed since the Thousand-Star City existed." They looked at each other in bewilderment. "What the hell is this place?" Just from the name, it didn't sound very good. A burial ground of an underground city was enough to make people suffer. Now, a new place had suddenly popped up. It was always creepy. Lu Renquang said, "It sounds like it's not from this era." Zhang Xuanyu nodded. "Who does the memorial tower commemorate? Sea God?" Han Fei frowned. Judging from the statue of the sea god in the sea-quelling painting, there might be many sea gods. It was more like they were fighting for a kind of human willpower and existence. Luo Xiaobai said, "I don't know. According to my grandfather's grandfather, these 3 places have existed since the earliest records of the Thousand-Star City. Moreover, there was very little information about these places. Even those aristocratic families only have a smattering of knowledge. Han Fei looked at Old Bai and said, "President, do you mean that we should go to these places to become law enforcers?" Old Bai nodded. "For now, it doesn't matter whether we enforce the law or not. Even if all 4 of you become law enforcers, you're just law enforcers in the Thousand-Star City. Which big clan or sect doesn't have a few or dozens of law enforcers?" The few of them rolled their eyes. "He's a law enforcer, after all. They were better than hidden fishers, weren't they?" Old Bai said, "Let's put it this way. There were some matters that might involve the archaic era, involving the cultivationless age. I think you should know a little bit about it." Han Fei nodded. "In the Age of Doom, big stars fell, and the water of the sea swept the mountains and rivers. This is what I learned when I explored the ruins." Old Bai looked at Han Fei and said leisurely, "Then do you know what the big stars fell?" Everyone shook their heads. Han Fei had told them about this. They thought it was a meteor streaking across the sky. Otherwise, what did it mean? Old Bai chuckled. "Since there was an age of doom in ancient times, why did it happen? Have you ever thought about the reason?" Han Fei and the others shook their heads. "Who knew?" Old Bai said leisurely, "I also learned about it by chance. It is said that before the Age of Doom, that era was called the Age of the Gods." "Age of the Gods!" Han Fei and the others exclaimed. The name alone was domineering enough. Han Fei's heart surged. In the Age of Doom, there were sea-quelling bizarre treasures and snow gods' temples. Then, how glorious was the Age of the Gods! Old Bai glanced at Han Fei. "The big stars fell, and it should not refer to the stars in the sky. It is very likely to refer to the fallen god." "Wow!" Han Fei and the others gasped in shock. Zhang Xuanyu couldn't help asking, "Does the gods refer to the kings?" Old Bai shook his head slightly. "I don't know. I'm not from that era. However, after the Age of Doom, you should know that the Sea Clan rose. In the ocean, endless creatures were growing, squeezing the living space of human beings." Lu Renkuang's face trembled. "But, what does this have to do with us going to the Thousand-Star City?" Old Bai sneered. "Haven't you always wanted to know why the Thug Academy broke out in a full-scale war with the many families in the Thousand-Star City more than 30 years ago?" Han Fei was stunned. "Wasn't it because of the sea-quelling painting?" Old Bai sneered. "The sea-quelling painting has long been available. Although it is a little related, it is not the whole story. Speaking of this, let's talk about what was left after the fall of the gods in the Age of Doom." Han Fei took a breath and said, "The Immortal Palace?" Old Bai was slightly taken aback. Is there a record of this in the sea-quelling painting?" Han Fei smiled. "Have you forgotten where the sea-quelling painting came from?" Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. "Where is the Immortal Palace?" Han Fei shrugged. "I don't know. It should be above the Thousand-Star City." "Humph!" Old Bai sneered. "Bullsh***, is this what you mean by understanding it? If the Immortal Palace was only above the Thousand-Star City, someone would have flown up long ago. Then it wouldn't be a secret at all." Han Fei wondered, "Where is that?" Old Bai narrowed his eyes and said, "If I guessed correctly, it is an ancient mysterious place that was opened in an independent space. The level of that place is far higher than that of a big city like the Thousand-Star City." Han Fei was very clear about this. The Immortal Palace ruled the entire Thousand-Star City and the 36 towns, but now it should be empty, with only some puppets left to guard it. And they were F***King Explorer-level puppets. "How troublesome." Old Bai said, "So far, I know that 3 people have been to the Immortal Palace." Luo Xiaobai asked, "Which 3? Old Bai gave Han Fei a meaningful look. Ren Tianfei, who snatched the sea-quelling painting, Han Guanshu, the last commander of the Scattered Stars Island who lost control, and the Thug Patriarch." Everyone immediately looked at Han Fei, then at Old Bai, and finally at Han Fei. Han Fei said helplessly, Old Han, you didn't tell me. Lu Renquang asked, Who is Ren Tianfei? Old Bai said, You don't need to know who he is. You only need to know that after he came out of the Immortal Palace, he was beaten by the big clans of the Thousand Star City and almost died. Han Guanshu, Han Fei's father, was the same. Even our thug patriarch was the same. Do those big clans care about the sea-quelling painting? No, what they really care about is the Immortal Palace. Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. F***ck, it seems that all three of them are related to me. Old Bai said, The reason why I asked you to go to the Thousand Star City to rebuild the Thug Academy is only one of the reasons. More importantly, it is to find a way to enter the Immortal Palace under the pretext of rebuilding the Academy. Why do the 7 major sects want us to return? Why don't I agree? Because once I agree, although we have an alliance, we won't have any secret. This is the crux of the problem. Luo Xiaobai frowned. But even if we find a way to enter the Immortal Palace, won't we follow in the footsteps of the 3 seniors? Zhang Xuanyu and Lu Renquang nodded. Even a venerable had been defeated, and the thug patriarch had fallen. Who could withstand that? Now, the few of them didn't even have the cultivation of a law enforcer. Old Bai smiled mysteriously. No, it's precisely because you are too weak that even if you find a way to enter the Immortal Palace, I'm afraid you won't be able to enter. And in this way, you may know and keep this secret. In the future, you can choose an opportunity to enter. Han Fei couldn't help but glance at Old Bai. President, why don't you go find it? Old Bai rolled his eyes. Us? Are we going to die? Do you really think those big clans in the Thousand Star City are useless? Han Fei thought to himself, after so many years, the Thug Academy hasn't been destroyed, has it? Suddenly, Han Fei thought, the Thug Academy still has a trump card. Yes, it must be so. Just now, Old Bai took out a puppet. Was that puppet a clone of the Thug Patriarch or something else? If this was the case, the Thug Academy should have a trump card that everyone didn't know. Otherwise, according to the nature of the big clans in the Thousand Star City, the Thug Academy should have been destroyed long ago. Sure enough, Old Bai said, as long as the strong of the Thug Academy don't return to the Thousand Star City, they won't dare to act rashly. However, we have also lost the way to find the entrance to the Immortal Palace. Han Fei asked, Can we? Old Bai nodded. You are special. Xiaobai is from the Luo family. But you are complicated. They don't dare to touch you, nor do they dare to indulge you. With the Thug Academy and your father keeping an eye on you, your safety will be guaranteed. Zhang Xuanyu asked, What about Quang and I? Old Bai said leisurely, You two can make up the numbers. Zhang Xuanyu, Lu Renquang, the two of them were speechless. In the end, the two of them became the numbers? Their young hearts suffered another blow that they shouldn't have suffered at their age. Old Bai said, Okay, this time to the Thousand Star City, you will definitely encounter a lot of difficulties, but they don't dare to deal with you openly. So, you can rebuild the Thug Academy with peace of mind. When you arrive at the Thousand Star City, adapt to the situation. The rest of you can leave now. Han Fei, stay. Chapter 980. After everybody left, Han Fei asked in surprise, Sir, why do you want to talk to me in private? Old Bai looked at Han Fei leisurely. In the future, your progress can't be too fast. Where will you go when you reach the peak of law enforcer one day? Han Fei pondered for a moment and decided not to tell Old Bai about the Shuemu sky for the time being. So Han Fei said, Old Han will find a place for me when the time comes. Old Bai nodded slightly. Yes. He couldn't make a breakthrough in the territory of the Thousand Star City. From the moment you got the sea-quelling painting, countless people had their eyes on you all the time. Once you undergo tribulation here, even your father won't be able to save you. Since your father already has a plan, you should just let nature take its course. However, You'd better find a way to go to the Immortal Palace before you reach the peak of Law Enforcer. Otherwise, Han Fei. Otherwise, I'm afraid that once you become an explorer, the big clans in the Thousand Star City will fall out with you even if you want to find them. After all, there was more than one venerable in the Thousand Star City. Since your father can't suppress the Thousand Star City, you won't have a chance either. Han Fei nodded. Got it. Old Han was a potential threat to the Thousand Star City. He had already shown his face. On the surface, this game of chess had reached a stalemate, creating a temporary balance. Han Fei thought that their ultimate goal was the sea-quelling painting. But now, it seemed that wasn't the case. The real focus of the chess game was either to become a king or to unravel the mysteries of the Immortal Palace. Thinking of this, Han Fei felt that he was under great pressure. He had to find the Immortal Palace, go to the Waterwood Sky to become an explorer, and fight in the 10,000 Demon Valley. There were only 8 years left. Han Fei sighed gloomily. President, is there anything else you want to tell me? Old Bai took out 4 small bottles and said, These are Heaven Heart pills. 1 bottle for each of you. There are 2 pills in each bottle. The Heavenly Heart pill was used to comprehend the Heavenly Heart, but it wasn't that useful for law enforcers. It was mainly used to break through to law enforcer and become an explorer. In old Zhang's words, this pill can not only increase the probability of a successful breakthrough by more than 30%, but also help you understand your own Tao. Hearing this, Han Fei quickly grabbed it. No matter what, it was good stuff. Increasing the probability of breaking through was already commendable. Enlightenment was even more precious. This is a good thing, I have to keep it. Old Bai rolled his eyes and said, You're too impatient. Anyway, you don't need it now. By the way, after going to the Thousand Star City, he would have to accept disciples. Remember to bring back some outstanding seedlings. Han Fei pointed at himself and asked in shock, We accept them? Old Bai said lazily, How about I collect them? Han Fei said angrily, Aren't we going to find a way to enter the Divine Palace? Why are you still accepting disciples? Old Bai sneered. There are more than 3 places in the Thousand Star City that are worth exploring. There was a place called the Thousand Star Testing Field. Where do you think the disciples of the 7 major sects and clans in the Thousand Star City have their trials? What do you mean? Old Bai stood up and said, The Thousand Star Proving Ground is a trial ground that includes thousands of secret realms. According to the degree of danger, there were different levels of classification. From easy to difficult, there were 10 levels of danger. Basically, every sect and clan controlled dozens or even hundreds of secret realms. We also have to fight for them. Han Fei exclaimed, Is there such a good thing? And there are secret realms waiting for others to take them? Old Bai sneered, took out a sea-swallowing seashell, and handed it to Han Fei. Open it when you're about to go to the Thousand Star Proving Ground. Old Bai said awkwardly, Whether it's a good thing or not, you'll know when you go there. Okay, I've told you everything. Remember, when you get to the Thousand Star City, you must be strong, strong, and strong. Anyone who dares to provoke you can be beaten or killed. Let's set off tomorrow morning. Early the next morning, Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan were sitting in the plantation, with a large pile of jade slips in front of them. The 2 of them didn't do anything for the whole night, just rubbing the jade slip. At this moment, their minds were in chaos, filled with all sorts of combat skills and cultivation method. However, although Han Fei wanted to make use of free labor, there were indeed many heaven-level combat skills and cultivation techniques in these jade slip. At least, Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan felt that from today on, they didn't have to go to the logistics division to exchange for combat skills and secret technique. At the same time, the 2 of them couldn't help but marvel. How many people did senior brother Han Fei rob to get so many combat skills and cultivation techniques? Biting a pot sticker, Han Fei walked into the plantation and chuckled. Xiaonan, Ling Yuan, how are you doing? The 2 of them raised their heads numbly, and Ling Yuan said, senior brother, it's almost done. You're leaving, right? Hurry up. It's important. Chu Jinan nodded. Senior brother, it's done. Han Fei touched his nose. Why does it sound like she wants to drive me away? Han Fei said leisurely, I just thought about it. The outer sea is too dangerous, so I have to let you adapt to it in advance. Forget it, I've learned something about the million knife art recently. Later, I'll hack you in the twisted jungle. Feel it? Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan shivered all over and looked at Han Fei speechlessly. Ling Yuan thought to herself, are you a devil? Before we left, you hacked us with the million knife art in the school. Then you hacked us to death. Now you're going to do it again? Luo Xiaobai said, Okay, Han Fei, don't bother them. Xiaonan and the others have done a good job. Is there anything else you haven't done? Hurry up and deal with it. We're ready to go. Ling Yuan and Chu Jinan both breathed a sigh of relief. Senior sister is really a deterrent, unlike Han Fei who always deliberately makes trouble. Han Fei smiled and said, Don't. I haven't finished breakfast yet. Half an hour later, Chu Linyuan and Mu Qingchuan sent Han Fei and the others out of the spiritual barrier. Chu Linyuan said, Junior brother, junior sister, you're in the middle of a whirlpool. Be careful. However, don't be afraid if something happens. The Thug Academy will not be bullied. Mu Qingchuan said with a smile, Lin Yuan and I were going to go with you. However, we still have other things to do. So, everything in the 1,000-star city is up to you. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Senior brother, senior sister, don't worry. Han Fei grinned and said, Don't worry, senior brother. I'll write it down in my notebook if anyone comes looking for trouble. In the future, we'll find them one by one. Chu Linyuan. Then Han Fei shouted to the yard, President, let's go. Old Bai said indifferently, Go. Remember to recruit some excellent students. Not long after Han Fei and the others left, Chu Linyuan said to Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan, Little junior brother, little junior sister, I'll leave the Scattered Stars Island to you in the future. Improve your strength and go to the Empyrean waterfall as soon as possible. Ling Yuan said in surprise, Senior brother Chu, senior sister Mu, are you leaving too? Mu Qingchuan said softly, We all have our own things to deal with, and the two of you are the representatives of this generation on the Scattered Stars Island. When you grow up, the junior brothers and sisters behind you will all be under your control. This is not an easy task. You must bear it in mind. Chu Jinan took a breath and said very seriously, Senior brother, senior sister, we will work hard. Chu Jinan, this upright little friend, seemed to feel that he was shouldering a heavy responsibility. But Ling Yuan saw it clearly. Han Fei and the others went to the 1,000-star city, so where were Chu Linyuan and the others going? It seemed that they were conspiring something, and she and Chu Jinan happened to be excluded from this matter. The Thug Academy seemed to be separated by the two of them. What was the story behind it? Outside the twisted jungle. Meow. As soon as Han Fei and the others came out of the jungle, they heard a cat's meow. Needless to say, it was Big Yellow. Sure enough, at this moment, Big Yellow was squatting there. Next to Big Yellow, Li Luoluo and Qing Chen were looking at them. Big Yellow's eyes were round. Han Fei, give me 2 more cats. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Are you making kittens again? What if you kill them again? Big Yellow turned his head. No, I'm training cats, slowly training them into powerful cats, and then I'll give birth to offspring, and the offspring will train the offspring again. In this way, I can slowly change their physique. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. In order to find a female cat for him, Big Yellow is really going all out. He even plans to start training from the depths of their genes. Awesome, awesome, awesome! Han Fei frowned, and 2 cats, a male and a female, appeared and were grabbed by Big Yellow. Han Fei looked at Li Luoluo and Qing Chen and asked in surprise, Why are you 2 here? Qing Chen smiled and said, Brother Han, I heard that you are going to the 1,000-star city? Ha ha! Let's go together. Li Luoluo threw over 4 waste tags. I'm going too. For the time being, there are enough law enforcers on the Scattered Stars Island. I heard that the 1,000-star city is very interesting. I haven't been there yet, so I'm going to go with you. The moment Han Fei grabbed the 9-star waist tag, Shueishenqi's phantom appeared. Put away the waist tag. Good luck. Shueishenqi was as cold as ever and left after only saying a few words. And Han Fei and the others were thinking, whose subordinates are Li Luoluo and Qing Chen? As for Big Yellow, he had been watching Han Fei leave. It seemed that this friend was really not bad. In Big Yellow's memory, no one knew that he was a cat the first time he met him. Therefore, Big Yellow was a little disappointed to see Han Fei leave. Chapter 981. To go to the Sky Ladder, they had to go to the very small floating island where Han Fei and the others came from. And no one was more familiar with the way there than the Cloud Whale. Was it a coincidence or something? Anyway, when Han Fei and the others came to the big river, they saw the Cloud Whale turning and moving in the cloud. They didn't ask the Cloud Whale to land but flew directly into the sky and came to the Cloud Whale in a moment. The Cloud Whale knew Han Fei. At this moment, when it saw Han Fei, it opened its mouth and rubbed its big head against Han Fei. Han Fei, who didn't exert any force, was sent flying by the Cloud Whale. Han Fei smiled and said, "Big guy, I'll treat you to crab." With that, Han Fei took out a crab more than 20 meters long and threw it into the Cloud Whale's mouth. Woo creak, crushing the crab in one bite, the Cloud Whale happily circled around and pushed Han Fei and the others up. Lying on the Cloud Whale's big head, Li Luoluo turned to look at Han Fei and said, "Han Fei, you seem to have a better relationship with the Cloud Whale than others." Qing Chen smiled and said, "This is the benefit of feeding it." Han Fei smiled and said, "Of course. I feed it every time." With that said, Han Fei patted the Cloud Whale and said, "Big guy, please send us to the Sky Ladder. You know where it is, right? It's next to the floating island." Woo, the Cloud Whale flicked its tail, scattered a white cloud, and disappeared into the clouds. Han Fei looked at Li Luoluo and Qing Chen. "Why do you two want to go to the 1,000-star city? Are you not happy on the Scattered Stars Island?" Qing Chen was chewing dried fish in his mouth. After becoming a law enforcer, there is nothing to challenge. After the last war, the sea demons suffered heavy casualties. I'm afraid they won't come back in a short time. Li Luoluo said, "I heard that the 1,000-star city is interesting. There are many ancient things. I want to go and have a look." Han Fei curled his lips. No matter whether the two of them were telling the truth or not, they were not competitors anyway. He couldn't stop them, could he? Zhang Xuanyu approached Li Luoluo and said, "Miss, do you remember me?" Li Luoluo glanced at Zhang Xuanyu and raised her eyebrows. "I don't remember." Zhang Xuanyu didn't mind. Instead, he smiled and said, "Then let's get to know each other again? Miss, look at my looks, and then look at your looks. Do we have anything in common?" Li Luoluo looked at Zhang Xuanyu for a while and asked, "What's in common?" Zhang Xuanyu chuckled. "One is handsome and the other is beautiful." "Hey, who's pulling me?" Whoosh! A vine wrapped around Zhang Xuanyu and threw him into the air. Obviously, Luo Xiaobai couldn't bear it anymore. The Cloud Whale even whimpered and tilted its body, as if it were considering if it should give Zhang Xuanyu a hand. But seeing that Zhang Xuanyu had flown back on his own, he continued to fly forward. Zhang Xuanyu returned to the Cloud Whale and heaved a long sigh. He sat down next to Lu Renquang and ate sea melon seeds with him. Luo Xiaobai said, "The Sky to Heaven ladder is not simple. Anyone who entered the 1,000-star city through the ladder to heaven would have permanent residency in the 1,000-star city. Besides, the Sky to Heaven ladder is also a kind of test." Han Fei asked, "What test?" Luo Xiaobai said, "The 7 major sects will send invitations to those who enter the 1,000-star city through the Sky to Heaven ladder. Therefore, on the Sky to Heaven ladder, there will be tests set up by the 7 major sects along the way. Of course, it's not mandatory. Li Luoluo asked, How do you know? Aren't you from the town? Luo Xiaobai paused. I read about it. Han Fei asked, Is it difficult? Luo Xiaobai nodded. I don't know. Qing Chen smiled. I know. I heard that it's quite difficult. However, it doesn't seem to be very difficult. Almost all the people who have climbed the Empyrean waterfall have passed. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. Why almost? Shouldn't it be all of them? In Han Fei's opinion, no one who could go to the Empyrean waterfall was simple. Was there anyone who couldn't go up? Luo Xiaobai nodded. It shouldn't be that exaggerated. Among the 7 major sects, the Sea Cloud Tower is the most low-key. And the test set by the Sea Cloud Tower is also the most difficult. Even if someone didn't pass, it should be the Sea Cloud restaurant that blocked them. Han Fei was slightly surprised. Indeed, as one of the 7 major sects, the Sea Cloud Tower was too insignificant. The Heavenly Sword sect was the most high-profile, and the Jade Fairy Palace was full of girls. It was a paradise for people like Zhang Xuanyu. Therefore, he was the most famous. The Grand Void Academy, the Mountain Sea Pavilion, the Origin Returning Peak, and the Death Door sect each had their own strength. As for the Sea Cloud Tower, although it belonged to the 7 major sects, Han Fei found that he hadn't met many people from the Sea Cloud Tower. The only one he had seen a few times was Cosine. However, he didn't seem to be very strong. There was nothing special about him that made people remember him. The Sword of the Heavenly Sword sect, the Girl of the Jade Fairy Palace, the Head of the Death Door sect, the Void Sword of the Grand Void Academy, the physique of the Disciples of the Mountain Sea Pavilion, and the comprehensive strength of the Origin Returning Peak were all impressive, but the Sea Cloud Tower didn't. What kind of academy is the Sea Cloud Tower? Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly and said, I'm not familiar with the 7 major sections. I'll know when I go up there. The Cloud Whale was a strange creature that specialized in flying. It was very fast and only took 3 hours to arrive. Han Fei and the others jumped off the Cloud Whale, and Han Fei stuffed a big octopus into the Cloud Whale's mouth. Thank you, big guy. Woo, the Cloud Whale's voice was ethereal, resounding between heaven and earth. It turned around and disappeared into the clouds again, swimming alone in the sky. Turning around, Han Fei and the others looked at the so-called sky ladder. When they first saw this place, they thought it was a hanging ladder and they had to climb up with both hands and feet. In fact, when they got here, Han Fei and the others found that the so-called sky ladder just looked like a hanging ladder, but in fact it was more like a flaming staircase hanging in the air. However, from the direction of the floating island, they could only see one side of it, which showed the image of a hanging ladder. The sky ladder was like a burning chain of fire. In fact, except for the burning part, the rest of the place was blank. They could only confirm where the road was through the flaming chains. Han Fei tried to stand in the blank space outside the flames. However, if he didn't do it on purpose, his body would begin to fall. Only by standing on the invisible flaming chain could he really stand still. However, once he stood on the flaming chain, he would directly become a flaming man. These flames not only had the heat of flames but also seemed to have a slight impact on the soul. Li Luoluo immediately shouted, Can't we just stand on it? Li Luoluo stood directly on the second flaming chain, but she couldn't stand on it at all. Luo Xiaobai nodded. I think we need to go step by step. Otherwise, if we fly all the way along the flaming chain, wouldn't we reach the 1,000-star city? Lu Renkuang's face trembled. It shouldn't be that simple. At this moment, Han Fei stepped from the first flaming chain to the second flaming chain. With a stomp, he disappeared in front of Luo Xiaobai and the others. Qing Chen screamed, Hey! There's something wrong with the space. Zhang Xuanyu shrugged and said, Fine. We can only go floor by floor. Then, after they walked to the second floor, they saw Han Fei. At this moment, the 5 flaming men looked at each other, staring at each other. Han Fei asked, I don't know how many floors there are on the sky ladder. However, the intensity of the flames and the degree of soul shock will become stronger and stronger. Hey, Xiaobai, are you going too? Luo Xiaobai said lightly. I'll go with you. Han Fei thought, that's right. Luo Xiaobai probably won't be happy to go back through the teleportation array. Lu Renkuang had already stepped out, muttering, since I went to the ancient battlefield, my soul has been greatly improved. Let's go, hurry up. They walked all the way up 4,000 steps, and they had all changed into low-quality divine battlesuits. The main reason was that if they didn't change, their clothes would be burned, not because they were too hot or couldn't resist the flames. After Han Fei and the others stepped over this step, Han Fei seemed to see a fist light, which was as strong as a peak-level hidden fissure. Unhurriedly, Han Fei punched out and easily shattered the blow. The others also did the same. Perhaps the sky ladder was difficult for others to climb. Any attack was at the level of a peak-level hidden fissure. But the 5 people here were all comparable to law enforcers. How could they be afraid of this attack? On the 5,000th floor, a sword light swept over and was shattered. On the 6,000th floor, there were still sword lights, but the speed was extremely fast. Han Fei recognized at a glance that this was a combat skill of the Jade Fairy Palace, but he still easily shattered it. The 7,000th floor was a door. The 8,000th floor was a sea of swords. The 9,000th floor was a weird demonic sound. Among the crowd, Lu Renkuang was a little uncomfortable, but he still walked over. It could be seen that Lu Renkuang didn't eat those pure soul beads for nothing. Han Fei smiled and said, after all, it's still a hidden fissure level assessment. Although the temperature of the flames is no longer the same as before, it's not impossible to resist. Luo Xiaobai nodded. The soul shock is not that strong. Let's see the last assessment. Han Fei suspected that this so-called sky ladder was still on the 9,999th floor. If it was not set by the Thousand Star City, it must be set by the Yin-Yang Palace. That's why it was surprisingly similar. When Han Fei stepped into the 9,999th floor, he suddenly fell into a momentary daze. He saw Lin Miao Miao attacking him. Huh? A mental demon? Chapter 982. Han Fei frowned. Why is it always Lin Miao Miao who has a mental demon? This is not the first time. In the past, he deliberately wanted to cut off the extremely short karma with Lin Miao Miao. But this time, it directly turned into a mental demon. This made Han Fei a little hesitant. Although it was indeed because of him that Lin Miao Miao died. However, he had already taken his revenge. Was it not enough? Han Fei knew that it was his fault that a mental demon appeared. He thought it was enough to kill Sun Mu. But now that Sun Mu had been killed, Lin Miao Miao would still appear. He couldn't help recalling what Lin Miao Miao had said to him during the days when she was his guide. It must be because she said something that he remembered, so deep in his heart, he couldn't forget it. But he couldn't remember it now. At this moment, feeling his soul shaking, Han Fei closed his eyes. His whole body flashed with golden light, and he punched out, shattering the mental demon with the invincible heart. At this moment, Han Fei decided, no way. I have to find a time to go to the level 3 fishery and bring back Lin Miao Miao's body. Suddenly, Han Fei felt his eyes light up. When he stepped on the last fire chain, his vision changed, and he was standing on a circular platform. Around the platform there were 3 stone pillars. The stone pillars were smooth and without carvings. On the top of the stone pillars, there was a beautiful spirit swallowing fish in a unique style. This platform was independent and suspended in the air, about 10 kilometers away from the floating island in front of him. At this moment, in the air, there were 7 people standing. Their clothes were different, and it could be seen that they were disciples of the 7 major sections. And these people were all law enforcers, and none of them were hidden fishers. In addition to these 7 people, on the edge of the floating island 10 kilometers away, there was another person standing, who didn't look like a member of the 7 major sections. However, he looked arrogant. He should be here to pick a fight. You knew we would come, so you waited for us here? With a thought, Han Fei put on a set of clothes and put away his battle suit. Among the 7 major sects, the people of the Heavenly Sword sect were particularly easy to recognize. After seeing Han Fei, they just smiled and asked, "Han Fei?" Han Fei nodded. "It's me," the man said softly. "Although I know your relationship with Tengu, we still have to take your relationship with the Thug Academy seriously. Will you join my Heavenly Sword sect, or will you choose to do that thing?" Shwa shwa, as they spoke, Luo Xiaobai and the others appeared one after another, and the flames on their bodies had just disappeared. Hearing that person's question, Luo Xiaobai simply said, "We want to rebuild the Thug Academy." Li Luoluo heaved a sigh of relief. "Humph, it turns out that the last pass is the mental demon. Otherwise, Li Luoluo will suffer." Han Fei shivered slightly and looked at Li Luoluo. "Brother Quang?" Li Luoluo nodded solemnly and then looked at the people of the 7 major sections. "What? Is there still an assessment? I would like to learn a thing or two from you." Qing Chun asked in astonishment, "Li Luoluo, when did you become an official?" Li Luoluo raised her chin and looked at Qing Chun. "I'm Li Quang. Don't mention Li Luoluo to me." As soon as Qing Chen was about to speak, Zhang Xuanyu put his arm around his neck. "Brother Chen, the law enforcers of the Heavenly Sword sect, or rather, the law enforcers of the 7 major sects, actually didn't resist the Thug Academy. Especially the Heavenly Sword sect, mainly because Tengu and Mu Ling were about to get married, and both sides had venerables behind them. And venerables were a deterrent in the 1,000-star city in this era. It was unlikely that they would actually take action. And Han Guanshu was a special kind of venerables. He was the father of the 2 children, not an ancestor. Therefore, his existence would be even more of a deterrent. Therefore, under the influence of the Heavenly Sword sect, the 7 major sects didn't resist the Thug Academy very much. So the powerhouse of the Heavenly Sword sect looked at Li Luoluo and Qing Chen. Before that person spoke, Qing Chen said directly, "I heard that the Mountain Sea Pavilion is famous for body refining?" The law enforcer of the Mountain Sea Pavilion was a little surprised. He thought that Han Fei and the others wouldn't choose the 7 major sects, but he didn't expect Qing Chen to ask this, which surprised him. The man smiled and said, "Of course, among the 7 major sects, only the Mountain Sea Pavilion has the highest achievements in body refining. You have become a law enforcer. If you want to be a disciple, you can directly become a core student at the level of a last disciple. Of course, if you are willing to teach in the Mountain Sea Pavilion, you need to reach an agreement with the Mountain Sea Pavilion. During the agreement period, most of the resources and information in the Mountain Sea Pavilion can be shared with you." Qing Chen glanced at Han Fei. "You know, this is my path." Han Fei nodded. "Whatever you want." Qing Chen took a step forward and grinned. "I'll go to the Mountain Sea Pavilion. By the way, does your school provide food?" The law enforcer of the Mountain Sea Pavilion was stunned. "What kind of question is this? You are a cultivator. What food do you want to eat?" However, the man still grinned and said, "Of course, a law enforcer can eat anything he wants." Qing Chen looked back at Han Fei and thought to himself, "This guy is a master chef, the peak kind." However, compared with the temptation of delicious food, cultivation is more important. Then, the law enforcer of the Jade Fairy Palace looked at Li Luoluo and said, "Miss, you have also been promoted to a law enforcer. Your treatment is similar to that of the Mountain Sea Pavilion. Our Jade Fairy Palace is different from the Heavenly Sword sect. There are many hunters and manipulators in our Jade Fairy Palace, and we also have powerful soul warriors. What do you think, miss?" Li Luoluo frowned. "Miss? Why should I go to a place where a group of women stay? No. Everyone." The group of people was dumbfounded. "Why do you look like a Kingman?" She looked delicate. Although she was a little flashy, how could this be related to a man? Han Fei and the others were also speechless. They had already seen Li Kuang's character. He was a fool. He should choose one of the Mountain Sea Pavilion, the Origin Returning Peak, or the Sea Cloud Tower. However, Li Kuang suddenly looked at Han Fei. I heard that you are going to establish a school, right? Han Fei raised his eyelids. In fact, we don't count. We don't have benefits, and it's very troublesome to clean up the old site. Kuang. Brother Kuang, you can help yourself. The 7 major sects. Those people were wondering if they were blind. Brother Kuang? Nowadays, people don't care about gender when they make friends? Zhang Xuanyu seemed to want to say something, but Luo Xiaobai glared at him. However, they were not fools. Li Luoluo was definitely a woman. As for why Li Kuang appeared, it was very likely that there was something wrong with her soul. However, they suddenly heard the female law enforcer of the Sea Cloud Tower say, "You can come to our Sea Cloud Tower. Half of the men and half of the women are here." Li Kuang paused. "Let's see if you can beat me first." After that, Li Luoluo took a step forward and a long stick appeared in her hand. She waved the stick and 7-colored light appeared behind her. The female law enforcer of the Sea Cloud Tower's face suddenly changed. She looked solemn, and behind her, an undead creature appeared, dressed in black armor, with a ferocious face, and took Li Luoluo's stick with its big hand. Bam! At that moment, in the 7-colored light, a cyan light suddenly burst out. The law enforcer of the Sea Cloud Tower cursed, and quickly retreated. And the undead creature was purified by this cyan light in an instant. The power of life? After a short confrontation, it was obvious that the person from the Sea Cloud Tower suffered a loss. Of course, it was mainly because she didn't know Li Luoluo's means. In fact, none of them knew that Li Luoluo had such means. What was this 7-colored light? Among them, a ray of light contained vitality and directly purified the undead creature, which seemed a bit weird. Li Luoluo withdrew her stick and said arrogantly, "Humph, I'm not going." Suddenly, Li Luoluo's body in the air suddenly stiffened. Han Fei and the others thought, "Not good, is she going to transform at this time? What the hell is she doing? Shouldn't she transform after being stimulated? Why is she going to transform now?" Seeing that the makeup on Li Luoluo's face had returned, Han Fei knew that the main personality had returned. Li Luoluo landed directly on the platform and looked at Han Fei. "I'm going to the Thug Academy." Luo Xiaobai asked, "Why?" Li Luoluo smiled and said, "You guys are more interesting and there are fewer people." Zhang Xuanyu quickly said, "Welcome, welcome. Let me tell you, the greatest benefit of our Thug Academy is that there are a lot of delicious food." Luren Kuang nodded repeatedly. "Yes, I can prove it." The people from the 7 major sects were a little speechless. What the hell are these people? They're crazy. Their soul problems are so serious that they don't need to be recruited. The law enforcer of the Heavenly Sword sect cupped his hands to Han Fei and said, "In that case, we won't stay any longer." The sky-reaching stairway was originally prepared for ordinary people with some talent. "I know you are extraordinary. See you later." Han Fei nodded and suddenly asked, "By the way, when is Tanggu and Mu Ling's wedding?" The law enforcer of the Heavenly Sword sect said with a smile, 3 months later, someone will go to your school to send an invitation." Just when the people of the 7 major sects were about to leave, they suddenly heard the person on the edge of the cliff of the floating island 10 kilometers away sneer. "Is this how the 7 major sects assess you? Since when can you enter the 1,000-star city casually?" As soon as he said this, Han Fei and the others frowned. Who is this? Chapter 983. Han Fei and the others were here to grab territory and rise again. In the face of provocation, Old Bai specifically told them to be tough and emphasized it more than once. Therefore, Han Fei certainly wouldn't be so cowardly at this moment. Han Fei sneered. "Which family are you from? If you are not from the 7 major sects, then you must be from an aristocratic family. The Chow family is arrogant and I don't think they will come here." So, who do you think you are? If Han Fei didn't dare to fight with old Han behind him, he would be a real coward. Lu Renkuang took a breath. Believe it or not, I can blow you to death. Zhang Xuanyu smiled contemptuously. What? Does the Thousand-Star City belong to you? The law enforcer of the Heavenly Sword sect said indifferently, Chu Shao, the Thousand-Star City has no reason to stop you. It's not your Chu family's business, is it? The young man named Chu Shao chuckled and shook his head. That depends on what they are here for. If they come to the Thousand-Star City to pursue a higher position, I have nothing to say about it. However, as we all know, he's just a bumpkin. He thinks he can do whatever he wants with the sea-quelling painting. If he really thinks he can become a king in a few years, that will be the biggest joke in the world. Chu Shao stepped in the air step by step and looked at Han Fei. The reason why the Chu sect doesn't compete for the sea-quelling painting is that we don't think the sea-quelling painting has any real significance. It's ridiculous to become a king with a painting. If a king can become a king in this way, what's the point of thousands of people working hard to cultivate? Don't you think so? Whoop! The phantom glass wings spread out and Han Fei also stepped into the sky. You're right. A painting is indeed not enough to become a king. However, since the Chu sect doesn't compete for the painting, why are you so nervous? It's none of your business who gets the painting. Besides, do you think that your Chu sect can compete for it? Han Fei was talking tough, but he was thinking, why did the Chu sect attack twice? It doesn't seem to be targeting me, but the Thug Academy? But why is the Chu sect targeting the Thug Academy? What's the relationship between the Chu sect and the Thug Academy? The two of them were arguing, and Li Luoluo was very excited. I like this. I want to beat this kind of idiot. Let me help. Li Luoluo was about to go over when Luo Xiaobai stopped her. Luo Xiaobai said, one-on-one. It's fair. Thinking of Han Fei's means, Li Luoluo had no choice but to raise her little fist. Han Fei, come on, beat him to death. Han Fei grinned. How so? Today, I'm going to ask the Thousand-Star City, will they let us in or not? How confident are you that you can stop me? Chu Shao looked at Han Fei up and down. Extremely conceited, a peak-level hidden fisher. Do you think you are your father? Han Fei sneered. I've never mentioned him. I don't know if I'm being conceited. However, I really don't think it's a big problem to beat someone like you. Chu Shao grinned. Suddenly, the void trembled, and the pressure of his spiritual soul descended and exploded. Zhang Xuanyu's expression changed. Not good, it's a soul explosion. The people from the 7 great sects were also horrified. The law enforcer from the Heavenly Sword sect had an ugly expression on his face. He was prepared to step in and help if anything went wrong. After all, Han Fei hadn't become a law enforcer yet. He had to be careful when facing the soul explosion of a law enforcer. What made them feel ashamed was that this Chu Shao was extremely shameless. If you want to fight, you should at least suppress your strength to that of a peak-level hidden fisher. How could you fight now? However, in the terrifying soul explosion, Han Fei didn't even blink his eyelids. Han Fei sneered in his heart. These people don't know how much soul power I have now. At that moment, Han Fei activated Devil Change and his figure instantly disappeared. In the void, 3 spikes broke through the void and went straight to Chu Shao. Han Fei's voice echoed in the air. Is this all the Chu sect's roadblock is capable of? Swish! Chu Shao jumped directly into the sky. Fighting at close range was easy to cause damage. However, judging from his reaction speed at that moment, his speed was extremely fast, reminding Han Fei of the Yi family. Swish! 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 The two of them jumped up quickly, attracting a lot of people's attention. Except for Luo Xiaobai and the others, there were people watching in other places. In fact, there were even some experts who were observing in secret. It was not until the altitude of 8,000 meters that the two began to fight. The three demon-slaying spikes, like three cloud-piercing arrows, revolved directly around Chu Xiao. Chu Xiao didn't use the power of laws. He seemed to be testing Han Fei's strength and was taking them with his bare hands. Clang! A crisp sound vibrated in everyone's ears. Chu Xiao sneered. Your strength is not bad. But are you sure you want to fight me with a semi-divine weapon? Bam! 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 As soon as Chu Xiao finished speaking, the three demon-slaying spikes exploded at the same time, like a thunderbolt in the clear sky. Standing above the clouds, Han Fei tilted his head and smiled. This kind of thing is no different from a disposable item for me. However, the taste of self-destruction is not good, is it? Looking at Chu Xiao, who was sent flying dozens of kilometers away, Han Fei put on a brilliant smile and shook his head. TSK, 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 when I first heard of Southern Chao and Northern Chu, I thought the Chu sect would be very powerful. Turns out that they are just SOSO. In terms of the ability to mock people, Han Fei was nothing. If this were on the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei would have scolded Chu Xiao. However, now he needed to maintain his image. After all, the Thug Academy still had to recruit disciples in the Thousand-Star City. He had to keep a low profile. However, Han Fei felt that Yushire's self-destruction was really cool. Looking at Chu Xiao's face that was blown up, he could finally understand the joy of Yushire's self-destruction. Chu Xiao, who was blown back, looked cold. How could he have expected that Han Fei would blow up three semi-divine weapons so casually? No matter how poor their grade was, they were still semi-divine weapons. And this kind of thing was relatively rare in human society. In terms of the power of self-destruction, it was comparable to the attack of a law enforcer. Therefore, those who didn't have a strong physique would feel their blood freeze after being hit by it. Chu Xiao, who didn't wear a battle suit at all, was blown up with holes all over his clothes and more than 10 scratches all over his body. It was almost impossible to hurt his foundation. However, Han Fei felt it was worth it to make the other party so embarrassed. Chu Xiao said with a twisted face, "You want to do this the hard way? You're courting death." All of a sudden Chu Xiao's body turned into a cloud of mist. A large expanse of whiteness rolled towards Han Fei. Seeing this scene, Han Fei frowned slightly. There were some people that Han Fei particularly hated, those who could turn into sand, shadows, and other special things. In this case, it was very difficult to defeat them. Of course, it was not impossible to deal with them. For example, as long as he used the yin-yang divine eyes and the void lines, Han Fei was confident that he could press the other party to the ground. Even if the fog was Chu Xiao's law enforcer ability, he could still beat him. In addition, the law of gravity could also be used, but Han Fei didn't want to expose it. After all, he couldn't kill Chu Xiao now, because Han Fei felt that a terrifying strong master was watching the battle. Since he couldn't kill him, why would he expose the law of gravity? It was really unwise. Maybe this person was sent to test his strength. As for using the invincible fist technique, it was like using an anti-aircraft gun to kill a mosquito, and it was easy to arouse people's fear. In this case, Han Fei grinned and said, "Is this your law enforcer ability? I just want to say one word to you, trash." No one responded, but Han Fei sensed that the cloud contained great lethality. If he hadn't broken through the third level of the indestructible body art, Han Fei wouldn't have chosen to fight head-on. However, at this moment, Han Fei didn't move at all, letting the cloud cover him. Below, Qing Chen said in surprise, "Why doesn't Han Fei make a move?" Li Luoluo said, "Strange law enforcer. Although Han Fei is a body cultivator, the other party is a law enforcer after all." The law enforcer of the Sea Cloud Tower said, "Chu Xiao's law enforcer is corrosive. Whether it's his body or soul, what does Han Fei want to do?" The law enforcer of the Grand Void Academy said with a faint smile, "Although I don't know what Han Fei's purpose is. This guy is not willing to suffer losses." Just as everyone was talking, above the sky, a pillar of fire descended. In the daytime, in the universe, Han Fei directly activated the void fishing art. He knew that in this way, some people would definitely doubt Han Fei's cultivation method. But compared with the cultivation method, what attracted more attention was his physique. After all, the vast majority of cultivation methods would attract the scorching fire of the sun when they were activated under the scorching sun. However, it was generally not so exaggerated, and ordinary people couldn't bear it. A large array emerged, and Han Fei directly trapped this cloud with the coiled turtle array. When the terrifying fire of the sun fell from the sky, in an instant a scream broke out. "Han Fei, you're courting death!" An angry roar broke out above the clouds. Without a strong enough physique, not everyone would be able to withstand this force. With Han Fei's current realm and physique, he could hold it for 5 minutes. At this moment, after just 1 minute, Chu Shao had to return to his original body. Below, the people of the 7 major sects were all stunned. Someone exclaimed, "Is he crazy?" Someone sighed. "There's something wrong with the cultivation method. However, this is a move that hurts both the enemy and himself." The law enforcer of the Mountain Sea Pavilion grinned and said, "Hurt? Look, Han Fei's physique, TSK. It's very strong. It's the kind of physique that can refine a golden body." As for Luo Xiaobai and the others, they looked calm. In their view, at this time, Han Fei was in his peak period. Ordinary law enforcers couldn't shake him at all. This had been proven countless times, so there was no need to be surprised. In the second minute, Chu Zhao's whole body cracked. Although he was wearing a divine battle suit, it was still difficult for him to resist this terrifying scorching force. Chu Shao tried to break the coiled turtle array, but Han Fei's phantom glass wings and agility of wind were not just for show. Han Fei smiled and said, "Aren't you here to test me? Don't be a coward. Keep doing it." In the third minute, Chu Zhao's whole body was bleeding. His hair and whatnot had all been burned away. His skin was burnt all over, and he was about to be completely cooked. Suddenly, a muffled groan came from the sky. Someone broke through the coiled turtle array with one hand and grabbed Chu Shao out. But at the moment when he was grabbed out, Chu Shao was already dying. If he weren't a law enforcer, if he didn't have a divine battle suit, he would have been reduced to ashes by now. After stopping the cultivation method, Han Fei was in his peak state. When he came down from the sky, his hair was growing, his clothes were changed, and he casually cast the divine healing technique on himself. The thin cracks on his body were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. This showed how abnormal Han Fei's physique was. Chapter 984. Han Fei landed and looked at the man who was holding Chu Shao in his hand. At this moment, the man was using a healing technique on Chu Shao, and the latter was also recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. This person must be a peak-level law enforcer. Otherwise, an ordinary law enforcer shouldn't be able to heal a person so quickly. At the same time, Han Fei also realized a problem, that was, as old Jiang once said, the more powerful a spirit gatherer was, the more powerful he would be. In the past, spirit gatherers were the targets of the whole team's protection. At the level of peak-level law enforcer, he had the means to attack and the ability to recover, and his spiritual energy wouldn't run out easily. Whenever he set up a spirit-gathering array, spiritual energy would continuously pour into him. This was what a law enforcer should be like. Once he became an explorer, the spirit-gatherer would only become stronger and stronger. Maybe he would slowly become an unkillable cockroach. Han Fei looked at the man and said, "A peak-level law enforcer? It's not right for you to stop us, right?" The middle-aged man took a deep look at Han Fei. "The people of the Thug Academy are really the same, Humph." With that, the middle-aged man grabbed Chu Shao and left in a few steps, without saying much to Han Fei and the others. The law enforcers looked at each other. The arrogance of the Thug Academy was indeed passed down from generation to generation. At this moment, they cupped their hands and said, "Goodbye." When Han Fei and the others landed on the island of the Thousand-Star City, they looked around and found that no one lived here. But the ground in front of them was carved sapphire bricks, and there were a few human-shaped statues not far away, which seemed to be welcoming people coming up from the sky ladder. In the distance, they could see the outline of buildings, which seemed quite tall. Qing Chen had already left with the Mountain Sea Pavilion. Han Fei and the others looked directly at Luo Xiaobai. It was the first time for them to come here, and they were completely unfamiliar with the Thousand-Star City. Now they only saw a corner of it and didn't fly into the air, so they didn't know how big this so-called Thousand-Star City was. How many islands were there? What kind of layout was it? Luo Xiaobai said, "I don't like shopping." However, the entire Thousand-Star City is mainly composed of 36 floating islands and several small floating islands. Those very small floating islands are not included because they are too small. The whole place should be a little bigger than the Scattered Stars Island, about 5 or 6 times. Pooh! Han Fei and the others almost burst out laughing, all dumbfounded. What the hell? The Thousand-Star City was 5 or 6 times larger than the Scattered Stars Island. Li Luoluo was surprised. "Are you from the Thousand-Star City?" Zhang Xuanyu, "What? Then where should we fly to? Where is the former site of the Thug Academy?" Lu Renkuang counted his fingers and said, "So, this place is equivalent to 10,000 kilometers long." Right at this moment, they saw an old man in plain gray clothes flying over. "Miss, this old servant is late. Miss, are you all right?" Luo Xiaobai bowed slightly and said, "Grandpa Ku." The old man's face was brimming with a bright smile as he said, "Miss, Master wants to know if you want to bring your fellow disciples back to the mansion to stay for a few days or what?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. "No, let's go to the old site of the Thug Academy. Grandpa Ku, just tell us where it is. We can go there ourselves." The old man smiled and said, "How can that be? Since this old servant is here, I will naturally lead you there." With that said, the old man looked at Han Fei and the others with a smile. "I'm Ku Shui. Greetings, young masters. The former site of the Thug Academy has long been dilapidated. If we go there now, we may have to clean it up." In Han Fei's eyes, this old man was clearly a strong law enforcer and was by no means an ordinary person. However, Luo Xiaobai's father was also an explorer, so it was normal for him to have such an old servant. This was the heritage of a big family. Even though Luo Xiaobai said that their family had declined, they were still not comparable to ordinary families. Han Fei cupped his hands and said, "Then please lead the way, Senior Ku." Ku Shui waved his hand and a fishing boat appeared. Han Fei and the others were surprised. "Can we take fishing boats in the Thousand-Star City?" Ku Shui smiled and said, "Of course. You can also fly with wings. After all, the Thousand-Star City is relatively large. Even some people who live in the Thousand-Star City often get lost." Lu Renkuang said, "Senior, can you give us a brief introduction first?" Zhang Xuanyu echoed, Yes, let's talk about the 7 major sects and families in the Thousand-Star City first. Are they all on the centermost island? Where is our Thug Academy? What's new about this place?" It was useless to ask Luo Xiaobai about Han Fei and the others' questions. When she was a child, she didn't even bring money when she went out. She probably didn't go out much in the past. However, Luo Xiaobai had a good memory. Although she was not familiar with the roads, she was definitely familiar with the places. Luo Xiaobai said, "Grandpa Ku, in the next 2 days, make a copy of some of the materials and ancient books about the Thousand-Star City and bring them over." "Yes, Mississippi," Ku Shui smiled and said, "Young masters, in fact, this Thousand-Star City is a little different from what you think. The 7 major sects are not in the inner circle, and not all the big families are in the inner circle. You can imagine this place as a large circular island. In the center, it is called the Central Divine Throne, which has also become a city of sacrifices. It is said to be the place where the gods live. It is blocked by a terrifying killing array, and even venerable powerhouses don't dare to set foot there. Surrounding the Central Divine Throne are the three holy lands of the Thousand-Star City, namely the Monument to God, the Sky Meditation Garden, and the Ideal Palace. Each of the three holy lands occupies an island. On the periphery of the three holy lands there are 6 floating islands. These places are inhabited by the most powerful families in the Thousand-Star City. In total, there are 18 families. On average, there are 3 big families on each island. Han Fei suddenly asked, "What about the Chao family and the Chu sect?" Ku Shui smiled and said, "The Chu sect and the Chao family are in the south and the Chu sect in the north. So, they are naturally in the south and north of the entire Thousand-Star City. And our current position is a little north. That's why people from the Chu sect came over just now. And the Chao family and the Chu sect are also the only 2 families in the entire Thousand-Star City that occupy an island. The reason was that there was a venerable realm expert present. This was something that was clearly displayed. But doesn't it mean that the other families don't have venerables?" Li Luoluo asked curiously, "Why?" Ku Shui didn't hide it. He just smiled and said, "I don't know if you know about the lifespan of cultivators? After a cultivator becomes a great fishing master, he will have a lifespan of 200 years. After breaking through the barrier of a hidden fisher, he will have a lifespan of 800 years. And a law enforcer is the transition from a hidden fisher to an explorer. They haven't entered the Tao yet, so they are not much stronger than a hidden fisher. It varies from person to person, but generally it's about 1,200 years. Only when you break through to an explorer, your lifespan will increase to about 2,000 years." Everyone asked, "What about venerables?" Ku Shui said, "Venerables, 5,000 years. This also varies from person to person, and there is no Tao to restrict them. But after the 5,000 years of lifespan, their comprehensive strength will begin to slowly decline. Powerhouses who have reached the end of their lifespan have to be careful every time they make a move. Perhaps it was no longer a battle. Maybe they are fighting for their lifespan." Han Fei and the others raised their eyelids. "So exaggerated?" Ku Shui said with a smile. "In fact, not necessarily. Some people exhaust their lifespan in advance. Some people increase their lifespan through natural treasures, and some people possess bodies to be reborn. However, it is said that the Sea Expansion King has a lifespan of 10,000 years. I don't know. There are also legends that some powerhouses can incarnate into the heavenly Tao and live as long as the heavens. They only exist in legends." Zhang Xuanyu took a breath. "So, the venerables don't fight because they want to live longer and can't fight at will?" Ku Shui nodded slightly. "Yes, there is a reason. Some people even need to seal themselves to a certain extent. However, this is not absolute. For example, a venerable powerhouse doesn't need to spend his lifespan to fight the young masters, unless the young masters have already become explorers." Han Fei asked, "What about the venerables who have a lifespan of less than 5,000 years?" Han Fei asked the question on behalf of Old Han. He thought that Old Han should be very young, right? Ku Shui looked at Han Fei with a smile. Of course, he knew what Han Fei was referring to. He said, "Then they don't have any scruples and can keep fighting. And when necessary, they can even burn their lifespan, which is extremely terrifying." Only then did Han Fei understand. It turned out that Old Han's greatest deterrent was still here. Others had to overdraft their lifespan to fight, but he could keep fighting. Who wouldn't be afraid of him? Of course, Han Fei didn't believe that all the ancestors of the big families in the Thousand-Star City had reached the end of their lifespan. There must be more than 1 or 2 of them who hadn't reached the end of their lifespan. Otherwise, with the pride in Old Han's bones, he would have beaten them until their scalps went numb and their lifespans ran out. Li Luolua's eyes were firm. I want to become a venerable. Han Fei and the others glanced at her, thinking, do I need you to tell me that? 5,000 years. If my conditions are good, I can live for 7 or 8,000 years. Then I'll be lucky. Luo Xiaobai said, it's meaningless to remember this. Once one's lifespan is up, there is basically no hope for a breakthrough. So, if you want to fight, you have to fight within 1,000 years. Ku Shui chuckled and said, Miss, you're right. If you want to fight, you have to fight within 1,000 years. For many heavenly talents, they may be able to become explorers or even venerables in a few hundred years. However, the step of sea expansion is extremely difficult. Some people say that the great Tao of the Thousand-Star City has been broken, and the rules are limited, so it's impossible to open a sea. What's the specific reason? No one knows. Han Fei suddenly took a breath. This is a huge pressure. Among hundreds of millions of people, no one can open a sea. Can't it be me? Han Fei suddenly laughed secretly. All the resources have been added to me. Even the Yin Yang Palace will belong to me. If I can't do it, who can?